Hello. Um, I think I should basically start scheduling things for like 15 minutes ahead of when I expect to do them so that by the time things work for me, it would be right on time instead of late. And then I could just pretend that I have to rush and get things ready, but I would still technically have 15 minutes on top of it. So yeah, somehow the little cable that went there's like a cable that plugs into the microphone arm thing on the other side. And when I was raising and lowering my desk, somehow it got caught on something and unplugged. And I was like, why isn't it working? And then I looked down and I was like, oh, have you tried turning it on and off again? Are you sure it's plugged in? So yeah, it wasn't plugged in. And that's so awkward. At least I had the sense to check before starting to panic. Okay. Well, let me get situated here. Let me get my links and stuff. Let me get this one first so that I can highlight. Okay. Ricknell, hello. Nice to see you. Tom as well. Just in time. Oh my goodness. Already with the justs. Haven't even gotten started yet. We already got somebody in the chat dropping a just. Okay, let me get my link situated here. I can't forget to do the sharing thing this time. I was on top of it last time, sort of, so I gotta keep that streak up. Is it streak or streak? Streak? I think it's streak. Streak is the right word. Somehow streak sounds weird. Sometimes you'll say a word that you haven't said in a while, and it'll sound like you're doing it wrong. Like it will sound weird somehow. And then you keep repeating it over and over in your head, and the more you repeat it, the weirder it sounds. And you're like, oh no, am I doing it wrong? Yeah, happens to random words sometimes. Okay, that should do it there. Doo-doo-doo. I got the twatter. It's weird because a lot of people still call it Twitter, even though it's X. And X is such a weird thing to say on its own, so nobody really, I don't know. Every time I hear somebody mention X or X.com, they usually say either X.com. They don't ever say X on their own without also mentioning that it used to be called Twitter. And a lot of people are still calling them tweets. I don't know. I don't know if the name change was a good one, because it's hard to refer to in conversation like a single letter. It sounds like you're like getting something wrong and confused or something. It's gotta be like tweets. That was a good like tweets in general, great sort of marketing and wording and everything. Like tweets are great because cute. You got the little bird thing. They're quick. Did I say cute and unique? And it's very recognizable. And to throw that away, I don't know if that was such a smart idea. I know Twitter had a certain history or whatever, but everybody knows it's still like it's not like people don't know it used to be Twitter. It's not like they're covering up some, secret or whatever. And I don't know, tweets seem like such a better name for things. It's a tweet, you go to Twitter. I don't know. If I had bought Twitter, that would be one of the things that I would be buying is that name and those that like recognition with the language and everything. But to buy it and then throw away like with the biggest like recognized part of it is crazy. What? Okay. Every time I open Twitter to post something, I see some weird shit. Some guy living in a rock for a week as an experiment. Yeah, okay, whatever. That's exactly what I needed to see. And that's how you get scrolling, though. Sometimes you'll open something up just for a second, and then you see some weird shit, and you're like, I mean, I gotta look at this now, and then you see some other weird shit, and you're like, I guess I'm stuck here for a few hours. Cool April Fools, by the way, but you can't fool a fool. Yeah, I mean, it's a few people pretty much knew right away that it was gonna be that. I think also the fact that I posted it later in the day when some people have already seen some other creators do theirs. I think if I do one next year, it's gonna have to be like I would have to film it and finish editing it and everything at least the night before so I can post it first thing in the morning so that before anybody sees anybody else's April Fool's thing online, it would be like one of the first things they see, and then it would be they might not remember it's April Fool's, and then it might be like you might get them for a few minutes. But yeah, being later in the day didn't help, but I had to finish editing it. There was a few things I wanted to touch up, so Musk sucks at branding or names in general. I can relate to him on that, and that is very true. I'm also not good at names or branding. Um, uh, Datalus. I'll just call you Data. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you before. Welcome. Oh, hey, I just watched and commented on your first video. Just popped up in my recommended. LOL. Oh, cool. Very cool. Well, welcome. We'll be doing part 2 of the review for that whatever debates thing. Well, you saw the title. I don't know why I'm explaining it. Like little birds chirping after they come back for flying forward and reporting. I know, it's cute. Cute. It was so cute and recognizable, and he had it and just threw it away. I hope he does buy OnlyFans. Oh, crap, I said it. Almost said it. I gotta remember to abbreviate it, because YouTube doesn't like it when you say the name of the thing that everybody knows the name of. Don't get me started on the whole YouTube censorship thing. We have to self-censor so much, it's ridiculous. And the parts where you go like a little bit over the line, even if you try to like censor the best you can, but like you have to communicate a topic, the videos don't get shown. So you gotta be super careful. And I'm not very good at that sometimes. I'll start blabbing and it keeps happening. But he would buy it and shut it down. I don't know what that would do. It sounds like a waste of money, because people would go to another one. Like, it's a website. Yeah, I got a bit left to comment anyway, because that force equals our arguments of it. Oh, cool. Well, welcome. I hope you hang around. Monday evening. Welcome back. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you streaming. Oh, good. Yeah, it's nice to see me streaming as well. Let me finish up doing the link thing, and then eventually I will quit blabbing long enough to put the thing on, and then I will start blabbing again in between the thing blabbing, so there will be more blabbing shortly. Okay, oh, I gotta do the links. Okay. Oh, I don't know why this is so difficult for me. You know, usually I'm actually quite good at multitasking in general. Or at least I used to be. I don't know if it's so much anymore. No, I still think I am. Usually I'm great at multitasking, but for some reason, whenever I started doing these streams, multitasking is not one of my strengths, apparently, in certain situations. Okay, we got that one. Oh, that looks a little weird. Why is it cropping it like that? Oh, that's weird. Okay, whatever. That's what it is. Links, where do they go over here? They go... Oh, there we go. I don't know why I wasn't already on that one. Every time I look at that thumbnail, I'm like, ugh. You know how they do your AI people's faces and stuff? It's so uncanny valley when you see somebody that you know is supposed to be you but looks nothing like you. It's like, ugh, what is that? It's so weird. It's very uncanny. I don't know. I mean, it seems to work for people because people click on that stuff, especially if you get someone looking all like, "Rah, I'm going to die." You know, I don't know what that was. Angry T-Rex. Um, Something like that. So, I don't know. Oh, also, I don't know if y'all noticed, but I started changing. I realized I don't really have a brand style or color or anything, so I went with pink. And it's a little funny because I don't really like the color pink. I've never liked pink. I've always hated pink. Pink has never been my color, but I happen to have like a pinkish in the background there, and then it it stands out, and it was suggested. Okay, well, Claude suggested it, and I was like, it is pretty recognizable, so might as well. I don't see a lot of like magenta pink on thumbnails and like as a main accent color on other YouTubers, so I needed something that was a little bit more recognizable, and so I started going back and updating some of the thumbnails for past streams and videos to this new style. I haven't done them all yet. I think I'll probably, now that I've done the bulk of more recent ones, I'll probably start doing more, more of them to get them all eventually done. Maybe do like 2 or 3 a day or something when I have time to get them all eventually uniform in nature. And that would be very pleasing to look at when they're all kind of similar. Because I sort of had a pattern, but it was ugly, and so I started, because it was so ugly and plain, I started playing with it, and oh, you're not supposed to, oops. I think I did see a tomato stream, delete that. I think you're not supposed to post there when they do have a stream going. I think I did see one earlier. Okay, well, I think that's pretty much all the links I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know if anybody is in any Discords that I'm not in and they have like a self-promo page if y'all didn't have anything to do during the time where I'm like sitting here blabbing and posting links. If that's something, if you wanted to share, that'd be super cool. We could definitely get more sharing and whatnot, because I think it does help, especially for when certain videos, when I say stupid stuff and YouTube doesn't like to show it to people, sharing really does help, especially for those types of ones. But I'll try not to get in trouble here. Okay, now that that's done, let me pull up the video here and we'll get going. Oh no, you know what? I had it at the exact spot where we left off last time, but I think I accidentally closed that tab. But that's okay. Well, it should be... Usually it resumes where you left off, so that shouldn't be a huge problem. So hopefully it did save it. Although sometimes if it's still live, it doesn't do that, but hopefully it did. It looks like that's about where we left off, so we'll see. 1 second. And every time it opens that side chat thing, I don't need that. Let's do this way. And then let me get... Oh my goodness. I know how to work things. I gotta update this here. And then let's fix it a little bit so it's not so... Not so little. Get it regular size. Next time I'm gonna keep the window the way it is and not move it, that way I don't have to do this again. I gotta be more careful. I was closing stuff all over the place and I went and moved it out of place. Okay. That's better. Let me I'll move myself there too. Put myself in the middle there. Share with the chat too. This one. Oops. Let me move you. Oh, come on. This is ridiculous. Oh, because it's locked. Duh. Oh my goodness. I should know what I'm doing by now. But let's make that real small. I don't know if anybody reads the chat on screen anyway. I kind of like it because it's cute, but don't know if anybody is trying to read those really tiny letters. You'd have to probably watch it on the TV or something to see those. Okay, that looks okay. Let me catch up on chats here and then we'll switch over to it. What exactly? Sometimes even though I'm somewhat conservative too, conservatives are they're contradictory. Like with the Juice Erica thing. With how they're like, oh, don't make fun of Erica, it's not allowed. But like, they're the ones that are like, oh no, comedy is dying because the leftists, they killed comedy and everything is too woke now. But oh no, you can't make fun of us. That's not allowed for whatever reason. It's so stupid. Everyone wants to read this. Hello world. Oh, you okay? I was like, what? Wait a minute. But yeah, I guess I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Okay. Let us begin momentarily. Okay. That should be okay. And I'll put this over here. I'm gonna put this over here. And over here. Okay. Let's do it.
Warren's pay part, you know, she improved early refrigeration systems. So because of this woman, we can not have food that goes that gets
Bet you
spoiled.
anything if we look these up, it's going to be a guy who actually did the work. But okay, I'll just grant.
What kind of... Okay, so right away, this is so stupid. Okay, sure, at some point, it was mostly men that were doing most of the inventing and the science because it wasn't really acceptable for women to be doing that kind of thing. So obviously, if women aren't really encouraged or in some cases allowed to do the things that men do, it's obvious that they're not going to get the same results if they're not even doing the action that produces those results. So that is so dumb. And sure, at some point, people don't, again, this same view that her and her husband and all of those people have, they have this sort of really twisted view of society as if there's constantly this war, this sometimes like physical all-out war between the genders, and like whoever's stronger is supposed to like let the other one do stuff. And besides that aspect of it, it's like usually we get along. Usually the genders are meant to work together. That's why people get married left and right and start dating. And for a lot of people, that's sort of like the rite of passage of growing up and being an adult and being, you know, somebody that matters to somebody else. That's, for so many people, that's something that's one of the main goals in life, is to find your like other half or whatever. But the way that these people phrase things and the way that they talk, it seems like it's the opposite. Like there's some sort of war, and like the men and the women, they're fighting each other over, I don't even know what. Whatever it is. But it seems like they're always supposed to be fighting each other and somehow like competing against each other, which is not how human beings function. The two genders are supposed to work together. We are different and we both contribute, like generally speaking, we both contribute our own types of things to society, and both are important. You need both. There's no like, oh well, if all men disappeared or if all women disappeared, the other gender would be completely screwed. Like we both need each other. There's no like, oh well, you're useless or this particular gender is this or that. It's stupid. Just because we're different doesn't mean that we're somehow like better or worse than the other one. It's different. Like things can be different and still be, I suppose, not at war with each other. So I'm not gonna hop on this too long, but it's like, sure, at some point, if you find somebody that invented something, they at some point collaborated with somebody else, and a lot of those people are men. Like, even in today's society where women are allowed to do these kinds of things, it seems to not be generally the preference of women to go into these fields. Women do prefer certain types of more nurturing positions. Not everybody, obviously, like, I'm not in that group, but most women do seem to prefer certain types of things. So to say that, like, just because they prefer certain types of things over others doesn't mean that somehow they're not, like, capable of doing them in general. It's that another gender tends to prefer them more and tends to be, like, more passionate about it and historically more allowed to do it. Anyway, this is stupid. Like, if you find anybody that invented anything at any point, at some point you're gonna find somebody of the opposite gender that helped them in some way to do something. So that's it's like, oh, it's at some point you're gonna find that, like, it had to do something with men. Like, sure, yeah, they're only half the planet. Of course they had something to do with something. Like, obviously. This is so dumb. It's such an unhealthy mentality to have. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. And it seems like the people that do tend to think this way of, like, oh, there's a gender war and it's always men versus women, it's always a competition, those seem to be the ones that have a lot of other, like, weird toxic-like issues. I don't even like the word toxic because it's been kind of ruined by the woke stuff, but some things really are icky, and a lot of people that tend to have that mentality tend to have other icky stuff going on. And it's also interesting to note that a lot of people who preach the hardest for other people to behave certain ways have their own past be, like, the most degen. So, like, the most degenerate people are all like, well, I changed. I've had all the fun when I was younger and I know better now, so I get to tell you how to live because, like, I had all that fun before and now I'm older and I'm over it, but, like, that was wrong, so you shouldn't be doing that, you know? And it seems like all the people that are the most degenerate or have been the most degenerate in their past are the most vocal about what other people should be doing. It's a funny pattern I've been noticing. Phantom, welcome back. No. All right, let us resume. I promise I won't blab about everything this much. It was like, sort of fell out.
Let me finish this because we're talking about contributions to society. Obviously, I can't memorize all of these. I don't have that kind of a memory, but, you know, there's a woman who created the refrigerator, Kevlar, body armor material, Stephanie Kwolek, used in bulletproof vests that our brave men use in battle, helmets, aircraft components. A woman created the first computer algorithm, Ada Lovelace. She wrote the first algorithm for a machine. It's considered the first computer programmer, and without this, there is no modern software.
This is all very impressive, but beside the point.
Industry. No, it's not.
It is totally beside. I'm talking about force.
We're talking about contributions to society.
No, you're talking about that. My question to you was about force.
Let me finish. Grace Hopper, which created the COBOL programming language, which banking system.
She did it. It was like, I think I did something like that on my April Fool's video, like, ironically, but she really did it, like, she's really, like, doing the thing with it, like, she's like, that was very mature, Rachel. You're how old? 15? Okay. You're looking a little rough for a 15-year-old. That's what I expect from, like, a gossipy teenage girl. It's like this is not a serious person. I keep blabbing, that's the whole point. You're right. But that was a lot. Right away, we gotta ease into the blabbing. But that's fair. That's fair. That's kind of what we're here for, is the blabbing. Right. Ada Lovelace is a true story, but it's a little different. It was a mechanical computer invented in the 19th century, not an electronic one. Gotcha. Good to know. Oh, it seems like every time that we stream, I learn something new from Phantom. Every single time. There's some obscure fact that I was not aware of the details on that I get to learn, or like a vocab word or something. That's fun. Naz, welcome back. Nice to see you, Naz. rather what she said, like details. I'm here for the blabbing. Oh, good. Okay, because you're getting it. You're getting the blabbing. That's what you're getting. Whether you like it or not. It's everybody gets the same blabbing.
Run, which government infrastructures use. So our financial system literally depends on this. We've got frequency hopping technology, Hedy Lamarr, which is the foundation of Wi-Fi.
Did you know that that's false? I can't believe she did the Hedy Lamarr thing. That was a man who did that. No, she did not invent that. No, you can fact check that.
She's a co-founder with a man. Frequency hopping technology, Hedy Lamarr. There you go. You can look it up, pull it up on
if you actually look it up, it's well known that this is a fake feminist talking point.
So your original argument is, if this is what men...
I do want to kind of see what it is they're talking about. Like, I've never heard of it. I'm probably like not a great feminist. I don't know what they're talking about, but it sounds like if she did co-found something with somebody else, that does, I mean, people founded something together. Again, I don't know the details, but I would love to know what's true on this particular one. Wait, so is this a debate about whether men or women invented more cool stuff? It seems like it at the moment.
Contribute to society. This is why they get
That's not what I said.
I'm presenting
I didn't say what people contribute. I asked you about force, and you dodged and obfuscated and stonewalled to evade my question. Only men...
Oh, so force is the reason why people should vote?
No, listen to the question, sweet cheeks, and then you can give me...
Sweet cheeks, listen to the question, sweet cheeks. What is this? This is so cringe. I remember there was a Golden Age movie star that had an invention in telecom of some sort. Huh. Nope. Heidi had no comprehension of telecommunication tech. But I forget if it was Hedy Lamarr or not. And technology was actually invented and engineered by her husband, the something. Okay, that's interesting to know. It seems like they have some disagreement on that, so I'd love to get a source for it. But honestly, like one particular invention isn't really important. I've already harped on the invention thing, and the genders needing each other, and it's fine if men tend to do the more, like, most of the inventing. I don't really think it's a big deal. I don't think that women need to be doing the same stuff that men are doing. And if men tend to go more towards like certain sciencey inventions and women tend to go more in like nursing or doctors or whatever, that's fine. That I don't see a problem with that. We don't all need to be doing the same stuff.
Me an answer.
Everybody's important in their own way, except for all the not important people.
Yeah, if you're very... Yeah, you're very pretty.
That was appropriate. I usually hate the little sound effects that Brian does, but that was appropriate.
Congratulations, but this is a debate, not a beauty pageant, so you got to try to focus.
What was that even about? Why did she bring up that she was pretty? I was probably too busy blabbing. I must have missed.
Give me an answer. Yeah, if you're very... Yeah, you're very pretty. Congratulations, but this is a debate, not a...
Was that a sweet chicks? Was that like a compliment of her being pretty? I don't... What does this have to do with anything? Like, what does her being pretty have to do with anything? Is she feeling like insecure about herself or something? I mean, after that thumbnail work, I could see that happening. Because, I mean, she looks fine. If they just left her alone, I think it would be fine. But the way they did her thumbnail to make her look like not herself at all is super cringe. I don't know. I don't know what this like pretty thing has to do with anything. This is such like a woman thing to do, Rachel. But I guess she's not shy about being feminine, and if this is what we consider feminine, I suppose that's more in her favor. Probably a self-conscious thing, to be honest. Almost like the inventor of the home security system was the woman's husband. In Hedy Lamarr's... Is it Heidi or Hedy? Hedy Lamarr's case. I don't know how to say it. That's me. I'm not picking on you. I'm picking on myself because I don't know what it is. And we'll go with Hedy Lamarr's case. It was another man, George Untitled. Oh, cool. Yes, yeah. Yeah, it does seem like she brought the pretty thing out of nowhere. It was weird.
A beauty pageant, so you got to try to focus. So men are the only ones who can do the hard, forceful jobs that provide us with security and all of this technological infrastructure that allows you to pretend that we are equal with men. We are not equal with men.
Same.
That doesn't mean that we don't equal in value. I agree, but
she thinks that we're equal in value. Oh my goodness, the thumbnail was right. Feminist, freaking feminist. Look at this freaking feminist. Two blonde feminists arguing with each other. It's a feminist catfight. Look at the inventing career. Let me try. Let me pull up another window here so I don't accidentally mess this one up. It's Heady or Heady? It's not awful. Still messing it up. Inventing is more than suggesting. That's fair.
That relates to duties. Equal in value relates to our duties to society. Men's duties to society are things like building and maintaining infrastructure, providing safety and security, keeping out enemies who are going to come in and, like especially pre-industrial revolution.
Oh, wow. Is that her? She's got that, like, what is that, like 50s thing going on? Hetty? I don't know how to say this. Oh, that's not helpful. Okay, well, it is what it is. We'll set that aside for later. Okay.
Oh, you're not going to cut me off after all that. Come on. Prior to industry and technology, men literally had to keep the barbarian hordes away from the gates, okay?
So this has to do
keep
with voting,
women safe.
Again,
because people think that we've escaped this natural fundamental thing, and we haven't. It still requires force at the end of the day. You still need men out there. Look at Iran, look at Ukraine, look at the borders, all the national borders.
What is this, like, look at Ukraine thing? As if war is, like, something that we should be doing. Like, I understand that's something that does happen, and we should be doing everything to try to avoid it. And men tend to be the ones that go and fight in the wars, so if men didn't do that, it's not like the women are going to be doing it, so wouldn't it be better if there was no war? Like, you're gonna see women start going and, like, doing an all-women thing. Like, sure, there are some women that fight. Of course, there are more than enough of them for it to not be in a monopoly. But I don't foresee, like, an all-women thing fighting, like, an all-women thing for... unless there... I can't imagine what kind of crisis would have to happen for there to be women fighting each other, like, in a physical combat way. The world would be such a better place if men just didn't fight in wars. Then all that women would be doing would be, like, sitting here throwing shade on each other and calling each other names. Like, that the world would be such a better place. So many fewer people would die in these, like, horrible conditions in these horrible ways, and for all these horrible reasons. If all men would do is just stop fighting, wouldn't that be better? I love that, like, Ukraine example. Like, oh, well, it's the men that are fighting in Ukraine. Like, okay, is that a good thing? Do we want them doing that? Again, I understand these things happen, but if they didn't fight and the men nowhere fought, then we wouldn't have war. Do they not get it? That's where that leads. To be honest, I've rarely spoken to a conservative or Christian trad that did not discern between unequal roles yet equal value. Okay, fair. But it seems like the value part is more it's more of something they sprinkle in because they don't want to seem like they're putting women down, but then they go and turn around and say, well, men still matter more because if all men disappeared tomorrow, then women would fall apart the next day or whatever. But if all women disappeared, men could keep it going for a while. That's her argument. That is really her argument. So it doesn't seem like, I don't know, like sometimes they'll say that they value them the same, but other times they'll present arguments that really don't lean in that direction. Heady. We'll go with heady. Heady sounds weird to me. Heady. It's heady. Heady. We'll go with heady. You know what? You know what, Phantom? We'll call her H. That sounds naughty. Not the barbarian hordes. Run. The barbarian hordes over invention. Or is a near inevitability. Well, you don't control outside aggressors. Well, that's the thing, though, is it's no men would be fighting. So outside aggressors would also have to be women, and that's the point. Like, if no men fought anywhere, then we would have peace. There's no, like, outside, like, a third gender that would be trying to attack us or whatever. You never know nowadays. Saying there shouldn't be wars, like saying there should not be any bad people, everyone should be perfect. Then you just get conquered. By who? The other woman? It is bad to be the aggressor, but one needs to be able to defend themselves. The society itself and the structures within it would largely maintain and continue operating, but there'd be no production of people within that society. Yeah, that's the last time that I discussed this point. I pretty much said the same thing. Like, if you don't have women, your humanity dies. Like, you're done. If you don't have men, women could still go and raid some sperm banks, and then that'd be okay, and they would get things restarted. But you know, it is what it is.
Still need men with force to keep society going. That's men's duty.
I agree.
What are women's duties to society?
I just named them. They have historically been primarily homemakers, right? And also women have a duty that men can't do, period, which is childbirth.
I'm glad you brought that up. Why aren't they having any babies anymore?
I knew she was going to say that because they always say that. Anytime the opponent says, well, women have the babies, they're like, well, why aren't they having... Sorry. Why aren't they having babies? They are. That women are having babies. If no women were having babies, we wouldn't be sitting here talking. Like, there would be an emergency. Like, there would be a complete, like, societal shutdown until that stuff got resolved. I don't get this whole, like, oh, they're not doing it. Like, sure, the amount of kids that women are having has been fluctuating, and recently it has been on a downward trend in some countries, but it's not like they're not having kids. That's an extreme exaggeration of what's going on. Wait, are they both on the same side? Kind of. Yeah, I mean, the woman on the right claims to be a conservative, and the woman on the left claims to be, I suppose, like, beyond... I was told that she was more than conservative, so, like, super duper extra conservative and more than traditional. So apparently not conservative and not traditional, but, like, so conservative and so traditional that she's beyond it. Like, she is so much more than conservative and so much more than traditional that she can't even call herself conservative or traditional, because conservative and traditional isn't conservative or traditional enough for her position. She is like so pick-me that a name does not exist for her position. But if men suddenly didn't... Oh, and also sorry, I should probably finish answering this one. So the other one, this one, she was called a feminist by, well, of course, Wilson, the other Wilson. And then they had some talks or something on the other debate. And then they were like, oh, well, why don't we just schedule a debate for you two? And then Andrew was like, no, you debate my wife, bro. And then here they are. So Rachel is trying to prove that this other lady is feminist, and I guess she's trying to say that she's not feminist. I know this is stupid, but the more I explain it, the dumber it sounds, honestly. But I think I mentioned this on the first part of React somewhere. I'm not sure exactly when, but I think I remember at some point saying something like, if you are like on a political party and you have a situation where you already aren't that popular with women or people in general, wouldn't you want more people on your side rather than less? It seems like they, like, between Rachel and all these other, like, fake, not trad, whatevers, it seems like all they want to do is exclude people from their little group and shrink themselves as much as possible. But at the same time, all they do is talk about how they're gonna spread propaganda and take over the government and use, like, their force, which they need collectives for, according to them. So if your collective is smaller than everybody else, how do you expect to do anything? If all you do is you're shrinking yourself down so that you're so much smaller than all the other groups, and people that want to be on your side, that say they are on your side but maybe don't agree 100% on every little thing, you basically try to label them as completely opposite of yourself. You have nothing. Like, you're done. And it's almost, I don't know, is this on purpose so that you can keep grifting? Because at some point, if you do actually grow your movement and you have enough people to do the force, people are going to expect you to, use it and actually take over the government, and then you won't have anything to complain about. But this way, the more they shrink themselves, the more they can be like, oh, we're persecuted, and the more they can complain and keep the dough rolling of everybody trying to, like, put money in the piggy bank that has a bottomless pit in it. Okay. I mean, long story short, I don't know what's going on here. But if men suddenly didn't exist, they couldn't grant women the right to do anything, so then the women can't do anything. There you go. Obviously, I don't know why I didn't think about that part. That's, yeah, I mean, we would basically have to sit down exactly where we're at and twiddle our thumbs and wait for the men to come back. And that's it. That's, I mean, obviously. What's the debate about? This is a good point. Yeah, it is. Hopefully I answered the what's the debate about. I know it didn't add a lot of clarity, but that's how I understand it. But advancements in technology have been made such that we've successfully produced healthy mice in both bipaternal and bimaternal experiments. I mean, there's mice and then there's not. There's people, But that's interesting. I didn't know that. She needs to make the race distinction because every other group are having enough babies as the European ones, so the birth rate is so low. Well, I don't know. They've already gone into race earlier, and it didn't seem to go in Rachel's favor. I mean, I know she tried to say that, that's not what she's saying, but then that was what she was saying. So anyway, the race thing is not going well for her. But yeah, I think she would have to bring it back up, which I don't think she would want to. Are you a woman or a mouse, though? Yeah. I mean, mice is one thing, but that is interesting if that was true. But the Wilsons don't see race as far as I know. Except, I don't know if you... Okay. I did have a tweet earlier. I was scrolling Twitter, and interesting what I came across. Here's my... I don't know if you'll be able to see... Oh, I'm kind of behind here. I'll scroll down so it's, like, higher than me. Oh, here it is. Here, let me hide myself for a minute. That might... You know what? It's fine. It's only going to take a second. I'll just keep scrolling. Yeah. So here's a post that was... This is Rachel responding to Not So Erudite about clipping something from this debate. And there was something about... This is this is what we discussed last time on part 1, where they were talking about like, oh well, if women don't vote, then we're gonna have everybody would be we would only have Republicans in power. And if you want Republicans in power, then maybe women should vote. And then the other chick was like, well, couldn't you say the same thing for race too? And yeah, you could. So, and then she was like, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. And she was like, blah, 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 blah. And then, if all you guys can do is try to paint me as racist, you have lost. She doesn't say she's not racist, but she heavily implies that she doesn't like being called that at the very least. But anyway, and then that's when somebody else replied, and I screenshotted that part here. Somebody else replied to Rachel. I'm assuming this is one of her like fans or something. And I'm not going to read that because YouTube will probably not like it. But this part. And then she said, I'd be fine with that, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that, although you could have been joking. If you're joking, then well played. It's just us, we're going to read up. I've seen Andrew dance around the issue quite a bit. Yeah, that's a good way to describe that. So the topic, is this person a feminist? I think so. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. It seems kind of like a general sort of who is more conservative and who is feminist or not feminist. I don't know. It seems like that's a big part of it at the very least, if it's not the whole thing. But yeah, so far that has been most of it. There is a lot to go, so it might change. There might be more topics, but so far that's what we had. It makes sense to shrink your group that focuses and concentrates all the force so that you can focus it like a laser. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Absolutely on a roll. I should have thought of it. That obviously, duh. I can see now how wrong I was. That's clearly the right answer. I don't know how I missed it. It's important to not dilute the essential values of the message just for the sake of appealing to people who might ultimately not be compatible. We could reproduce mice in the past or animals. Humans may not be the next achievement, but in the future it's safe to assume it will be possible. I don't think staying in the way is ethics, to be honest. Those darn ethics. Wait, I got it. If only Republicans vote, then we will only have Republicans get elected. Problem solved. We don't need identity politics to solve this issue. That's obviously, I mean, all you have done tonight is make perfect sense. I don't know why I even say anything. All we could do is read Phantom's messages there, and we have a perfect prescription for society. All right. Let's carry on before I get distracted again.
Because the situation for them is not apt, is not appropriate. It is a lot more difficult, especially when it comes to the economy, to have kids, one. And two, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, women need strong men to lead, right, and to be in a family with. And unfortunately, the men of today, I'm not saying all of them, but the men of today are quite literally not the same as men 50 years ago. In fact, and there's actual, you can pull this up, Brian, but I have it written here too. Men are actually physically different than they were years back, as in men nowadays on average have lower testosterone than their grandfathers. Mm-hmm. So for you to say that because men have to be the ones leading and all of this, you're trying to say that, oh, women are not having kids because of women's right to vote or something like that, which is crazy. I'm saying that we need to build strong men back up. We need to encourage them to take care of themselves, to get healthy, to build up their hormones, get their testosterone right, get unaddicted to pornography, drugs, alcohol, vices, and then women will naturally want to have families again. But
I mean, she's not wrong. I don't know what Rachel's going to say to that. I'm sure it's going to be something like, oh, I agree that the low testosterone, blah, 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 but then somehow blame women for it or something. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else she has here. Because, I mean, she can't possibly come out and start, like, agreeing that men have to go change something first. that would blow the whole thing up. She can't have that. Because the only way that people are going to simp for this lady here is her saying stuff like, oh, it's, the poor men are innocent and they're being overpowered by all these women even though they have all the force because they're just so nice and they're being taken advantage of, and if only women did blah, 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 then the world would be all fixed if only women were subjugated, or I don't know. I don't know what her thing is, but it's I mean that's the only reason like that people like this lady. So if she says anything to upset that very fine balance, I don't think that people are gonna like her, and then she'll be sad. So the debate is that the woman on the left and the other creators and then the space like her is a covert feminist, or no, the woman on the right. So this one here, they're calling her a covert feminist. The more like
but right now,
the more, what is this, like a platinum blonde? What color is that? Like a more of like the whitish blonde hair. So, or like we call her the taller blonde, or should we call her the hotter blonde? I don't know. The taller, hotter blonde, she's the one that's being accused of being a covert feminist. And then this shorter, slightly less hot blonde. Okay, who are we kidding? This we'll be nice. This shorter blonde, she is the one that is accusing the other, taller, hotter blonde of being a feminist, a super covert, scary feminist. So yeah, that's that. Jack's feminist believes this is so weird. Girl, we need men to lead, and the big strong boys. Girl 2, yeah, but you're wrong. We need men to be big strong boys so they can lead. That's pretty much what I'm seeing. I don't understand, like, that's what I mean. When people are already on your side, and the only thing that's different is that she thinks that women should still vote because she's being realistic, because she knows that that's not something that's going away. Rachel's like, no, that's a deal breaker. You're a feminist, and that it's the opposite. And even if you agree with me on basically everything else, you're like totally a feminist. And this is like a feminist bashing thing, apparently. I don't know. It's weird. Let's all pretend that this makes sense. It doesn't behoove a woman who claims to be a conservative to dictate the terms of patriarchal, I always say that wrong. Patriarchal rule is likely what she'll say. That's actually a pretty good prediction. And he's strong boys in the chat. So everyone should get roided up. Welcome back, Captain. Nice to see you.
Oh,
but
will
right
they?
now,
But testosterone isn't, I don't think that's exactly the same thing, because it's HCG that is the stuff that people get to be like super muscular, right?
They will. Okay.
but right now,
I could be wrong.
there isn't as high of a percentage of men that women want to, what you call, submit to, right? To get into a marriage with.
So women
that's the-
are not fulfilling their duty to society because man bad.
Did I
the
say
men
that?
just need to
Man
get
bad?
better. The men need to get better.
Man
They need to
bad.
improve. The men are in a sad, sorry state,
bad?
and that's why the women don't want to have babies.
It's a fact. I'm not saying man bad.
not.
I'm saying
Why
man
aren't women
unhealthy.
fulfilling their duty? Why
I'm
are women
saying-
not fulfilling their duty? Is
saying-
it because the men aren't good enough?
I'm saying man unhealthy, in fact, and this is something.
Men are unhealthy, and that's why women are. That's why
This
the
is
birth rate is so
something-
low, because the men are unhealthy.
Are you gonna let me finish, or let's?
Are you ever going to get to a point?
Yes, you just need to stop interrupting. So yes, for example, 1 in 10 kids nowadays is born with autism out of all births.
Can you just ever answer a question without going off?
Rachel is like losing it. Is it that hard to stay quiet for like a minute?
Fun.
Can you relax and let me
It's
make my
just.
point?
I'm just going to take a
Are you okay?
bathroom break while she
Sure.
yaps, and then I'll just.
So you don't want the answer to your question? Very mature, Rachel, very mature. Rachel makes me angry. I think she makes herself angry. I don't know what that was.
Come back and ask you the same question.
Fantastic. For those watching, 1 in 10 kids are born with autism in this country. Unfortunately, the men's health and the women's health is very important when it comes to fertility, when it comes to the health of a woman's pregnancy, and the men's health prior to conception is extremely important in making sure that that baby is healthy. Alcohol consumption is one of the largest causes of mutations and defects in men's swimmers. And so if men want to help the woman have a smoother pregnancy, a healthier pregnancy, then they have to take care of their health first. Women do too. I'm not saying it's like women should just do whatever. But again, this is responsibility on both people's parts, and women might not be having kids as much as they did before because again, the economy is freaking terrible. Women don't want to have kids that are going to struggle or go without, and men need to realize this and know that, okay, maybe I can't be a man that provides everything and can afford a stay-at-home wife, but at the very least, I can help in the household.
I already know what she's going to say if she heard any of that. She's going to be like, but poor people are the ones who are having the most kids. That's kind of the point. I think I've covered this at some point, but it's been a while, so I might as well touch upon it real quick. I think saying that poor people are having more kids, the reason that doesn't necessarily negate the argument that it has to do with finances is because the poorer people tend to be the ones who are worse with their money and take more unhealthy risk. So the more risk you take that is not good kind of risk. So there's good risk and there's bad risk. And if you take a lot of really unhealthy, really, really risky kind of risk, if that makes sense. I know I'm getting somewhere, I swear. Then you tend to be more financially, let's say, you tend to be broke, okay? People tend to be broke, and those are the same people that also are more likely to take on the risk of more children because they're not as concerned about, oh, well, how am I going to take care of these kids, of all these kids? What's going to happen to them? They don't think about the future as much, and they're not as cautious, which is also the same reason why they tend to be more poor. People, on the other hand, who take more of like healthy risk and tend to be safer about the way that they handle money and tend to be more like, well, what's going to happen if I have kids? I'm going to have to take care of them and I'm going to have to do all this stuff. Those same qualities that make them think about this stuff ahead of time tend to be the same qualities that make them have more money, in my personal opinion. Again, this is personal opinion that I think makes sense. Just observing reality. So yeah. That is why simply saying, well, if all of the broke people have more kids, that somehow it doesn't have anything to do with finances. It's like, no, all that shows is that some people are worse at budgeting, demonstrated by the fact that they have kids when they can't afford them. And other people are more conservative with their budgeting, demonstrated by they don't think they can afford the kids, therefore they don't have them, and therefore they might have like a little bit of extra budget. And if they were raising their kids the same way as the broke people, you could be like, well, they can do it, so then those people have the money, but they don't want to raise them to the same lower standard that the broke people are doing it. So I hope that makes sense. There's also the concept of like the government coming in and paying for some of the stuff, which complicates things even more, but I'm not going to harp on this too much. Damn, this is dumb. If you get up from the table, you lose the debate, right? Isn't that a rule? Yeah, I forgot about that one. That is the rule that her husband basically made up. So yeah. I guess she lost. I don't know. Should we even bother watching the rest of it? Because she already lost. This is kind of a nothing burger at this point. Unless it's for a smoke break. I don't think she went for a smoke break, so I think it counts. I think she lost. I think that's it. End of debate. Upsides are out of bounds or something. It was like risky risks, not the regular kind of risks. Professor Hazel, welcome back. Nice to see you. Brian is such a Brian is such a CUK. He didn't say Rachel, or he didn't say anything to Rachel about storming off. Is this a routine thing and whatever? Just get up and take a break in the middle of a debate. I mean, he lets her husband do the same thing, so I guess anybody who's like a bigger name that the audience likes, they can do whatever they want. But if anybody else wants to like get up and take a break or whatever, like that lady with the long hair that was on the like 140 IQ whatever lady, I remember doing a react to that, and like somewhere in the middle she was like, I really want to take a break. I've had to use the restroom for like an hour now. I really need to take a break. I gotta like this or that. And she kept asking I'm like, just go. You're an adult. Go to the bathroom. But she kept like literally begging to take a break. And meanwhile, Andrew has taken like 3 in that whole time. While Brian sat there and grilled her while Andrew was taking a break. It was so cringe. The break thing, yeah, it's completely crazy. Right. Whoever had the 140. Yeah, well, it's the supposedly 140Q. It's the react we did where we didn't watch the whole thing, where I basically pulled up certain clips. The one where he basically started saying the stuff about Epstein and how apparently it's not PDF related, and kept it like somehow claiming that there wasn't evidence for PDF stuff. Anyway, that one. No, she was trying to leave early for a girl. Not the long-haired one. The one with like the dark long hair. She was literally like trying to take a break. She was like, "Can I just use the restroom? I'll be right back. I just gotta use the bathroom." She was like begging for like an hour. That was so cringe. I know they've had some literal walk-offs, but that's not the one I'm talking about.
And we can contribute financially and also with labor in the household. That's what I'm saying,
Okay,
Rachel.
so I'm just going to defeat everything you said with one simple thing.
for it,
I'll just
Rachel.
point out the fact that the only people having children are the poorest people. So if the
Am I good or am I good? Am I good? I'm good.
problem was money,
Oops, I broke it.
we would see rich
I called it.
people having all the babies and poor people would not be having the babies. So you're absolutely wrong on that. In fact, we've done
Conservatives are
studies.
more responsible,
Okay, now it's
Rachel.
my turn. They've done studies on this because dropping birth rates around the world are an extremely serious problem. There are think tanks around the world, including the World Health Organization, that
I
are saying
agree.
this could be civilizational ending for
I
some
agree.
countries.
I agree.
So they've studied it at length. And the number one correlate around the world, regardless of culture, finances, religion, any other factor, is women's access to higher education and the job market. This means that when you tell
Correlation is not causation, Rachel. She even said correlates, so she's trying to be exact here because she knows she's going to get clipped if she says anything else. But like, I think it's so interesting how both her and her husband, but they're basically the same person, they keep doing this thing where it's somehow okay for them to say that correlations mean something, but when anybody else claims any other correlate means something that isn't convenient for their point, they'll be like, well, correlation is not causation. I don't know if they'll say it exactly like that, but they'll say something to that effect. Like that means that, maybe not those exact words, but they'll be like, oh, well, you can't just because this blah, blah, blah. But they're allowed to do it. They can be like, oh, well, this correlates, and that's an argument apparently. Is she suggesting that we need women to stay uneducated so that they will have more babies? Yes. Let's draw up. Yeah. Yep. Yes. It appears to be so.
Tell young women to spend all of their fertile years going to college and preparing for a job and then get into the workforce and establish your career before you think about marriage and family. What you end up with is we have now women getting married and having babies for the first time at around the age 30, 31, when in my grandma's generation, shout out to grandma, she's turning 100 on April 1st, love you grandma. She, in her generation, the first age of marriage was around 22. And you had a baby usually that same year.
So now you're also arguing against women's education?
Don't put words in my mouth. Let me finish. You just yapped that whole time.
Rachel.
That is weird. My grandma's birthday was also on April 1st. I mean, she's not around anymore, but that is weird.
Iran.
So
It's not a common birthday. I wonder if we're like secretly related or something. That would be so cringe. Yeah, production stuff working too because we're about to go extinct pretty soon, obviously. Or at least them having higher levels of independence is directly reducing their capability or willingness to have children. She's been interrupting the other the whole time. I mean, that's how it tends to go, right? The person that's doing all the interrupting is always upset that they get interrupted.
It's an option, you know.
So the truth is, it's not finances. It's not men are weak. Men need
And also, like, yeah, the super chat there too.
more testosterone. Men need to get their bag. Men need to blah blah.
But also, like Rachel mentioning, like, oh, are you gonna let me talk? Are you gonna let me talk? But then literally doesn't let her talk. And of course, like the super chats here. I don't know if you can see that one, but the super chats here are gonna be very skewed one way.
Blah blah, which that's mind blowing to me that you would ever pin this on men because you're like the men. Don't interrupt me. 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 Do you want a bathroom break and I can just talk?
Go for it. Go.
Okay. You say we would have more babies if the men would lead, but then you say I'm not going to follow a man. I have my own mind and I'm a strong, independent woman and I'm just as equal as he is and I think it should be equal. How can you be equal and he could lead at the same time?
Yeah, that's such a crazy concept.
Didn't she just say that equal value, that she agreed that women have equal value? Isn't that her? What? Am I tripping right now? She just said that. Like, it hasn't even been a full like 5 minutes since she said that women have equal value, and we even commented on how. Yeah, I mean, and here she's arguing against it. Like, how can you? Yeah, Rachel, how can the man lead if they have equal value? Okay, I mean,
Concept for you to understand, but it is possible.
Okay, tell me how.
I am in a relationship with a man that I also look up to, that leads, and at the same time, we both vote. What is the argument you're trying to make that you can't?
How does he lead if you don't submit?
Who the heck is talking about submission? I'm talking about voting, Rachel. And you just made an argument, again, against women's education now. So now it's not just women not being able to vote and women not having financial independence.
I did not make a should argument.
Also, I already see this is going the whole. Both of the Wilsons apparently love this whole, like, I'm not saying should, but sometimes the should slips out, and then their defenders come and say, oh, that was just internal critique. They didn't really mean should. They were just testing the other person's logic. They didn't really mean the should, even though they literally say should when it slips out, and then they come back to, no, we never say should. We're always just describing reality. That's all we do. We just describe reality. We don't say anything about should. And then when they do say something about should and get called out for it, they're like, oh, that was just internal critique. I've harped on it before. I forgot what I was going to comment on here. Oh yeah, the whole submission and leadership thing. That's stupid. Obviously, you can have a relationship where a person leads more without the other person, like, submitting to them. Okay, I'm not sure. I think we might have to define some language here. I wonder if they're going to do that here. That would be very helpful. But there's a difference between, at least like in my mind, when I read or hear the words like submission and leadership, they can go together, but they don't have to. I can still see a case where there is a relationship where one person tends to be the leader, but they're not necessarily being like submitted to. It's more like they're naturally somebody that sort of takes charge and the other person tends to go along with what they do. I think submission to me implies more of a relationship where one of the people specifically, how should I put this? They basically give away their agency, and instead of the other person sort of naturally leading and they kind of go along with it, they're specifically like, well, I want to do different stuff, but I'm going to do whatever this person says, regardless of my personal wants and needs. While in a more like natural leadership relationship where it's more where like especially men do tend to lead better and be better at it, and women do tend to prefer men who lead. So that does tend to be how at least heterosexual relationships tend to work out. We'll just go with the traditional style of like the man being the leader. Usually they're not, I don't know if I should say usually because I haven't been literally in every single person's relationship, but the way I see it is there are certain men who have this sort of presence and have these leadership qualities that where the woman wants to do what the other person wants to do, and most of the time they basically go along with whatever the other person wants, because the other person who is in the leadership position is also considering the wants and needs of the person that is not taking the leadership role. So I don't know. I think it might be easier to explain if I got some like definitions together and looked into the language of it more, but that's sort of off the cuff is how I think of it. So yeah, let me catch up on here real quick and then we'll resume. As in being the image bearer. Men and women are equal, obviously, but men are just slightly more equal. But not equal authority. That's stupid, obviously. Yeah, and that is stupid, obviously. Submit to follow instructions or orders even when they don't want to. See, but that's the key word. They want to or go along with the influence of the other person. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see where you can have like somebody who takes a leadership role without the other person specifically like submitting to them. It's more like they have this sort of sense of they're confident in what they're doing, and that confidence inspires others to be more comfortable with those decisions and agree with them just because they like sense the confidence. And that is how I notice human beings have worked. I mean, I've noticed myself work this way too, is when people are acting, you can see this in online communities too, in debates and stuff. When you see people acting really confident with what they say, they could be saying the dumbest stuff, like Rachel or her husband. They could be saying the dumbest stuff ever. But if they say it with enough confidence, they have so many people that go along with it because they seem like they know what they're talking about. And that's most of the time, that's all you need, is you just gotta seem like you know what you're talking about and be comfortable with yourself and with what you're saying and act like you know what you're doing. People tend to go with it. Oh, Phantom, you can go to bed. Good night. Thanks for stopping by. It's always nice to see you. But then that's something different than submission. Yeah, true. Okay, let us resume and see if they define anything.
Just told you what the reason is.
But also women shouldn't have access to
Do you know the
higher
difference between an
education.
ought statement and an is statement? I said the reason is this. Does that mean I'm saying women ought not be allowed to be educated?
Is that okay? I'm asking you that question. Do you believe that?
No, I think that women have, this is another big myth that Driena probably believes, that women were denied education.
She's gonna, yeah, I've heard her debate before, and she has all the same, yeah. These people are very predictable. So it's interesting that I know she's gonna be like, oh, well, women weren't denied education. Women did have all this education and blah, blah, blah. But she says that education is what's a correlate to women not having as many kids. So if they were also educated previously, clearly they weren't educated as much, because if that's a correlate, then obviously they were having more kids before. was for a minute, I read it literally like lettuce. Actually, the way I read it was lettuce, but instead of resume, I read it as resume for some reason. Like there is a little, like a little thing of lettuce that's going around, and it wants to be, it wants to get like a kale job or something, but it's just a lettuce, and it's got a little tie-in briefcase, and it's got the resume, but on the resume it only has lettuce jobs, but it wants to be a kale. You know it. It's not important. We'll pretend I didn't say that. Her position is to have it be postponed after their fertile years instead of the other way around. But how are they gonna teach the kids if what's important is for the women to be smart enough to teach the kids, and we want the smart women having kids because they're the smarter ones and they're gonna make the kids smarter, then they would have to be smart before they have the kids. Otherwise, how are they gonna teach the kids something they don't know themselves yet? That's confusing. Let us review all of the facts. Oh my goodness, you guys are killing me. Yeah, the homeschooling, of course. Let us resume. All right. Arthur homeschooling. Okay. Let us resume.
Education. Do you think that there was no equality in education until recently or something like that?
No, actually. And in fact, women hold more degrees than men.
Yeah, but what about
nowadays.
100 years ago or 150 years ago?
I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that education was heavily influenced by people that made it so it's harder to get an education, so it's more of an elite thing. And that's a whole thing with the Rockefellers and whatnot. But
that's true, but some of the first colleges in this country were women's only colleges.
And there are also a lot of
and
black
they've always
colleges,
had access.
and then Rockefellers got involved and it got cut to like
So
10%.
if we didn't have a birth rate problem in 1860 when all the women could go to college, why do we have it now? Because of 100 years of feminist propaganda from people like you and Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Kamala Harris. No, I'm saying now we have this problem because women like you, and I heard you say on...
So first she said that it's correlated with women getting educated, but now she's saying women were educated basically the whole time too, and they had all these colleges and universities back then too, and that women were doing it back then, and basically nothing's different now education-wise. I mean, she didn't exactly say that, but that's heavily implied here. Like, she's arguing against there being less education before. She's like, no, they had all these colleges. They're mostly for women, blah, 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 blah. Make it make sense. The argument would discredit and appeal to homeschooling, I suppose. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce. Rachel Wilson, don't upset us. Welcome back, guest services. Nice to see you. But in a community, women who are out of their fertile window and have become educated can still become teachers. They could, but their whole, I know they haven't said it in this debate yet, but something that they do say a lot in a bunch of other debates, I'll pull clips for this later if people are interested, but something they do say is that they want the smarter women, instead of going to school, is that they want the smarter women to have kids because then they can teach their kids, like their own kids. Like that's their point, is like that women have to be teaching their own children, and that's how you get smart children, is by the smart women having the kids. That way the kids are smart. Because if you could have anybody teach the kids, it doesn't even have to be a woman. It could be a man could be a teacher, a woman could be a teacher that is older, sure. And then you would lose, they lose that whole point, because if the smart women now don't have to be the ones having the kids in order to pass on the smartness, you could just take any old kid and give it to be taught by somebody else who is smarter, who doesn't have to be the mother. You lose that point. So yes, like I said, it throws a wrench in the homeschooling position. Oh yeah, you did say that earlier. My bad. I shouldn't over-explain like that, but yeah, they have literally made that point before. It's like, oh, well, the smart women have to be having the smart kids. Otherwise, if smart women aren't having kids, then we don't get any smart kids or something, which obviously doesn't make sense.
and I take major issue with this. Somebody finally pulled it out of you in the Dating Talk podcast that you do look down on women like me who don't have a degree and aren't in the workforce having a career. You said, look, if all you do, you said you don't feel that women who don't have their own money and career and all this stuff.
I've never said that. I dare you to I don't have cash, but I guess we could.
You didn't say you looked down on them, but you said you did not consider them successful like you or something like that.
No, Rachel, what I do remember saying is in Brian's hypothetical fun thing that he does on every podcast where he's like, oh, do you think women should, on the first time that they're over at my house, cook and clean and do laundry for them? Do you think women should do that? And I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. And most people that listen to that know it's freaking ridiculous. And women that do say, yeah, I would totally first time over a guy's house, do his laundry. Yes, I do believe those women
that's how
have
it started.
something wrong.
It started that way, but eventually through the course of the conversation, you basically said,
outside of that parameter, that is it.
Okay, I'll just take your word for that.
No,
but
people can go back and look at that. It's actually one of the
so we've established that the fact of what's actually true is that women are not having children because the men are too weak. They need to up their game. They need to be better leaders. They need more testosterone. The men are lacking, and that's why the women aren't having babies. The women aren't having babies because they go to college and they build careers first and they delay their first child until their 30s. And if you do that, there's a whole bunch of reasons why that doesn't work. The first is you're already past the majority of your fertility window. After 35, even with IVF, the odds of conceiving just go down drastically every year. That's a biological fact. The second thing is when you build your life around this idea that you have to have goals and be successful, and you've spent all your life, everything you're doing is towards your career for that purpose, women find it extremely hard to flip a switch and suddenly be a mom and a stay-at-home mom or dedicate their lives to something outside themselves, which is what our duty is.
So Rachel, it is statistical fact. And
So I thought you were supposed to do that. Okay, I'm confused because if she's saying that you're supposed to have the kids first and then you get educated, well, if you're having trouble doing that by flipping the switch, because if you have to flip the switch to be a mom, well, what if you're doing the mom thing and now you have to flip a switch and be the opposite thing and doing the school stuff, and then you already have the kid? Don't you have to watch the kid? How are you going to be how are you going to be a stay-at-home mom and you go to, I guess you could do an online school thing, but that's not really the same. All stay-at-home wives just play on their phone and not chip. Her words exactly, no way. I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised. And that's actually quite weird because there are times when her and her husband do the same stuff. They'll make arguments about being a stay-at-home mom isn't even that hard. You gotta relax on the couch. You clean up a few things, and then you get to chill and do what you want. But at the same time, then they go and be like, well, we gotta have women women can't be working. They gotta do all this stuff because being a mom is so important and it's blah, blah, blah. But if it's not even that hard and you hardly do anything, then you could have a nanny do the hardly anything. I don't know. And if it's not that important, then none of it really makes sense put together. The kids need less immediate supervision after a certain age. That is true. So I suppose the only thing you could really do is online schooling, because you can't leave them alone completely. At least in America. I understand in other countries you can have kids growing up and going around outside on their own, but here you get CPS called on you, which I think is pretty stupid. But yeah, you still have to have your kid with you.
Can look this up, that women with higher education degrees have lower rates of divorce. So since I am pro-marriage and pro-successful marriage, not just get married all willy-nilly.
Unless you put them off into public school or something, or daycare, which I'm sure they also frown upon.
Is why I do believe it's a good thing that women have education. And it makes sense, right? You are educated. Because
that's the whole thing is they say that you can't both be a mom and have a career and it be good for the kid. Because you're not spending as much time with the kid and you're putting them in daycare, you're putting them in school so that you can go and do that while the kid does this other thing. And apparently that's not good enough. And if it's financially possible for you, you have to do everything in your power to be a stay-at-home mom. So if you go to school after that, that's the same thing as going to work for a time. That's time away from the child. So, I don't know. I like one in the opposite priority, a woman who's currently on a career path educational journey first. Should effectively have to drop everything to be with them early on. Yeah, and I do think that, I don't know if most women do that, but I think it's most women's preference to do that, to stay with the kid early on. And I think I don't have an opinion on this really. It's surprise, surprise, but I don't think it's that big of a deal if you start doing some schooling or whatever, and then you take some time off to have a kid, and then you come back to it. Sure, there's challenges with anything. There's challenges in any kind of change, but it's not. I would think, like, as far as schooling goes, at least, I think it would be easier to come back and finish a couple years of school, or come back and like finish or take some time off work and then come back and like sure you have an empty spot on the resume, but it's different from having never worked before, from having never even gone to college before. It's a different experience when you've kind of already know how to do the things. You've been to college, well, I dropped out, so I can't even talk. But I think it's a different experience when you've already been doing something for a while, you're established in it, and then you have to take some time off for a kid or whatever. People are more would kind of understand that more, and you already have that experience, so you're more secure. But if you don't go at all and you go straight out of high school, you have zero experience, zero education, zero whatever, and you start having kids, which is fine. It works perfectly fine for some people. I'm not throwing shade on that. But I'm saying if your goal is to eventually have an education and have your own career later, it would be more difficult to start establishing that when you've already had the kids and they're starting to grow up, and now you're like putting them in school or putting them in daycare or whatever it is, and then you're starting from scratch when you're already older. It's a lot more difficult to start from scratch. It's a lot easier to resume, but if you have no experience whatsoever with school or career or anything, and you're what, up at that point like 30 or something, and you're just now starting with all of the high schoolers, with all the people who just graduate high school, that's got to be rough. I don't know. I'm not going to harp on that anymore. I think I kind of made my point there, but I think it's perfectly fine if people want to not even go to school and not even go and have a job and just be a stay-at-home mom. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, the just in that case is not meant to be like, oh, it's not good enough. Just, it's to only do that is not a problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think, like, I might have preferred that. I don't know. If I had the option, I might have preferred that for myself. But if you do want to have the higher education and you do want to have the career, it would be more difficult to start from scratch when you're already older.
And therefore, you want to establish yourself before starting a family so that it is something that is strong. And
but
again,
wait, didn't you say you're against women going to college? Didn't you?
When?
At the beginning, I said something about college, and you said, I agree. I think college is a scam, too. I think you shouldn't go unless you're getting a STEM degree.
Yeah, that's
How many
true.
women get STEM degrees?
How do those two things, how are they?
You just said you think women should go to college and get an education.
Uh-huh.
For like a STEM degree, I'm assuming. I don't see, like, she answered her own question. What is she upset about?
Okay, but isn't college a scam?
Unless you're going for a STEM degree.
Did you get a STEM degree?
No.
Okay.
And I got lucky.
Do you know what,
Yeah.
what percentage of STEM degrees are earned by women? It's like 20%.
See, I'm not a hypocrite because I'm not telling people to do something that I'm an exception for.
Well, I didn't even accuse you of hypocrisy. I'm just saying most women don't go for STEM. The vast majority, 80% of women's degrees are liberal arts nonsense.
A lot of them, yes, but
Yeah.
still.
So why would we push that?
The fact still stands that the more education, formal education women have, the lower the divorce rate.
But do you think
and
that
the
that's,
higher
but
lifetime
let's address
earnings.
that. Let's address that. Because you think
Do
that's,
you not want people to not get divorced?
do you think you need college to not get divorced?
No, I'm just saying that there's that correlation.
Okay.
Rachel.
That a correlation doesn't equal a cause. So
She said it. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm really on a roll here with the prediction stuff. I didn't think she was even going to say that because of what she just did with her own correlation. Like, I thought she would somehow like word her way around it. But no, she straight up said it. She straight up said it, word for word. That is crazy. After literally herself doing the whole correlation here must mean something thing, that is, wow, okay. And this is proving to be interesting.
telling women to go to college because you have a lower chance of getting divorced would be retarded. That would be like the ice cream problem. Have you ever heard of the ice cream problem?
No, you're saying women aren't having kids because they're going to college.
Yes, and they're focused on career and building careers. Because we tell them, if you're smart and successful, this is what you're going to do. And if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a loser.
This, oh, come on, go away. Why the thing there? Rachel, if you're anti-feminist, why are we listening to your opinion? Shouldn't we have a man explain this to us? Don't let me vote, but also let me win this debate. There's a super chat at the bottom that came in for the whatever podcast at the time.
And you're lame, and you're going to get abused, you're going to be vulnerable.
But when I have daughters, I am absolutely going to tell them, you need to have something of value that you can depend on, because you can't just basically put yourself up as somebody that is dependent on neither the government nor another person, right? So yes, I would absolutely tell boys and girls, set yourself up for life in whichever way you see fit. It could be getting a STEM degree in college, it could be going to a vocational school, doing some kind of trade, business, whatever. Absolutely establish yourself before coming into a relationship with somebody else. And if you do decide to be,
what do you mean by that though?
And if you
establish yourself, do you have to have like a 401k? Do you have to have a savings?
Just
what do you
have
have
some
to have?
kind of
just any old job.
Some kind of way for you to be able to depend on yourself. God forbid the worst happens.
Okay, but who can't do that? Do you know what the average jobs are that people work? The average person makes, for women, it's like 40K a year. For men, it's like 60K a year.
Okay,
most of us have like basic ass jobs that we can get straight out of high school. I did that.
Yes.
I didn't need to go to college and get into debt, which is the other big problem.
This was a very long time ago,
women come up. No, it's the same thing now.
No, it's
yes,
not.
it is. It is the same thing now. The jobs that are in demand are not liberal arts degrees.
Okay.
In fact, there's a ton of data showing that if you have liberal arts degrees, you have the hardest time finding a job because you don't have practical skills.
I agree.
And employers don't even want that shit anymore. And they look for people who try to start businesses. They look for people who are self-starters, smart, self-educated.
Yeah.
I'm debating you today with nothing but a cosmetology license.
Fantastic.
You know?
I agree that having degrees does not change facts, and having a title does not make for any kind of an argument.
Right. So if you can get a retail management job by the time you're 21,
I didn't even know she had a cosmetology license. She does kind of seem to fit, like when I picture somebody that is like a hairdresser or something, or like is a hairstylist or something like that. She does seem to fit that sort of stereotype. It really does make sense. That really does make sense now. Good old Walmart greeter, $7.25 an hour.
Why can't you get married and start having kids?
Sure. You know, what I'm saying is that having kids and being a stay-at-home mom, obviously very valuable. It does take you out of the workforce. And if you were to get back in it, then it'd make it a lot more difficult. So if women decide to be stay-at-home moms, they need some kind of protection, agreement, guarantee before marriage with the husband to make sure that the kids primarily are taken care of. God forbid the worst happens, which is a split or a divorce. So that is what I'm saying. I'm just being a logical, reasonable person. And I prescribe the same thing for men, you know.
You're not being logical and you're not being reasonable, and we're going to figure this out together, okay? So how are we going to combat birth rates dropping like a rock and tell women you need to have your own money, you need to have a fail-safe, you need to have a backup plan. You can't really leave the job market because if you do, it makes it really hard to get back in.
Let's work on solutions, right? For this country, let's focus on this country at the very least. It's the one we care about. I think it would be very helpful for women and men in this country if we weren't importing the third world or filling jobs that Americans can fill.
Yeah, why do we have to do that? Do you know why? Because we're not having babies. And if the women were having babies, we wouldn't have to import our entire labor force from the third world.
Because we have sellout politicians that don't answer to us and answer to foreign interests, and that's why they're doing it, Rachel.
We have a labor shortage. That's real. That's a real thing. We have a serious, not just us, almost the whole world. We're experiencing a birth rate collapse, and it's created labor shortages, and it's created supply chain problems.
Why would women want to have kids if if they know that the market for the kids when they do get born, they're not going to have the same opportunities they had growing up because we've got shitty politicians that are importing people from all over the world.
So now women aren't having babies because shitty politicians are allowing too many immigrants.
It seems like it's possible that it's a multifaceted sort of problem with several factors contributing to it. What does she expect? Like a single... I mean, maybe no, you know what? Honestly, I take it back. It seems like she does expect there to be a single, simple answer. If all you had to do was get rid of the feminism, then women would start having babies and problem solved. There are no other factors playing into this whatsoever. Obviously, all we have to do is focus on this feminism boogeyman thing, boogie woman thing, whatever, and problem solved, right? That is such like simplistic black and white thinking. It does. And when somebody is presenting like, oh, hey, there's multiple factors here, here's another one that contributes, it's like it's not computing in her head. Like somehow it's not working. She's like, oh, you said it was this thing, but now it's also this thing. Like how is that possible that there could be two factors in a thing for it to affect reality? Wow, it's not as simple as one quick and easy solution. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. You're being illogical. This is so freaking dumb. If I had children, I would advise them to study and take their time choosing the right partner so they don't end up with children with different absent fathers. The problem is that Christian women aren't having children. Well, that's interesting too, because if the prescription is religion, the religious people also are not having as many children as they used to. Like, sure, they're having slightly more children than people who aren't religious, but yeah, that's an interesting thought, because don't you want the religious people to have more kids, so, and then the non-religious people to not reproduce as much, so that the religious people can reproduce for them and take over or whatever? Yeah, I mean, don't ask me to make it make sense. Well, Rachel is right here, though. About what specifically? Do tell. Well, self-proclaimed religious. Fair enough.
That's a big
Is there
reason.
any point at which it's the women's choices to shirk their duty to have children? Are we ever going to hold the women accountable and say, maybe the values are wrong? Maybe the women should say, you know what? I think it's a really valuable thing to produce another generation to keep this beautiful, wonderful world that I get to enjoy going.
Beautiful concept, and I agree with it. However,
well, you'll talk about what men should do. Why won't we talk about what women should do?
Women should also.
I think they have the same problem. It seems like taller, hotter chick doesn't seem to want to focus on what women should do differently. Although I haven't seen her like avoid the topic entirely. It seems like maybe they haven't gotten there yet. But I mean, there's still time, so we'll see how this goes. But so far, at least, it seems like she doesn't really want to discuss what women could do differently. But she is okay with discussing what men could do differently. But Rachel, on the other hand, is not much better, because she's basically the exact opposite. She is very into discussing what women should be doing differently, but very against discussing anything men could possibly do to improve. Like, that's as I predicted. I predicted this earlier. She can't be trying to tell men that they should be doing anything different, because she's going to lose her base. So they're both doing the same thing from opposite directions. So in this particular case, they're both kind of doing it. If a feminist has kids and a Christian has none, is she okay with that? I wonder about that, because I've heard some people say that, like, maybe it's for the best that the leftists or whatever aren't having as many kids, because then the Christians can take over with all of their population or whatever. I have heard that. I don't know if I've heard that from like these people specifically. I'd have to go back and look, so I don't want to put words in their mouth, but people that like are adjacent to them, I've definitely heard that from, at least. But I would have to get exact quotes, and I don't have that exact one in mind. And Christian is a fairly broad demographic. That is also true. Low birth rates are the reason we import all these people. I don't fully disagree with that, but I think that even if the birth rates were higher, we would probably still be doing it. And also, isn't the whole thing, because what this chick is saying on the right is, if we didn't do the importing of the people, then we would have to, like, our kids would be able to have opportunities, but because we're importing all these people to fill in the gaps, then there's the children that will not have as much opportunity, so there's no point in filling in the gaps when the gaps are already being filled for us, is what she was trying to say, which I don't disagree with either. So I think this is like kind of a multifaceted issue, and there's many factors to it. I don't disagree that that's one of them. So that is a factor for that thing, and the opposite is true too. So, like, the fact that we do import so many people could be the reason, or at least some of the reasons, why some of the people are not having as many kids, is they don't really see a future for them. If they have this sense of like, oh, the jobs are being all taken or something, whether that's true or not. Except men haven't changed largely over time. Women have drastically within the past 23 years. I don't think that's true. Men have changed quite a bit. I don't know what exactly you mean by that. Especially what she was saying about testosterone. Men today that are, like young men today in their early 20s have as much testosterone as somebody in their 80s from like 50 years ago. It's actually quite bad. It's a real problem. I know she mentioned it before, but they didn't really stick around on the topic too much. They sort of moved on to other things, but that is a real problem. And that's not even all of it. I mean, that's a real physical change that we can observe and measure. But besides that, the way that technology has changed all of us has changed both men and women quite a bit. So I can't agree with that. The men haven't changed largely over time. I think that both men and women have changed drastically, very quickly. The quicker that technology changes, the quicker that people change, and it's not unique to any particular gender. So if it ain't broke, don't fix the stance, they've been feminized, along with a great deal of society to accommodate for women being enfranchised. Not super clear on what you mean by that, but all right, let's carry on.
Again, contribute to their society. They should.
There's one thing we need women to do more of, and it's have babies. We don't need more media girls. We don't need more psychology majors. We don't need more retail workers.
Rachel, how do you convince women to have more kids?
Well, I'll tell you.
Please.
So in a famous famous interview in the 19. Well, you got to fix the whole system. That's the point.
Oh, okay. Well, if we have to fix the whole system. That's easy. Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think anybody disagrees that we have to fix the whole system. Everybody has a different idea of what fix means. So, okay. I mean, if it's not, this is interesting because that kind of agrees with what the other lady was saying, because the taller chick was saying stuff like, well, men also have to do things differently. And Rachel was like, no, well, it's all on the women. And then she's like, well, what are you going to tell women to do things differently? Specifically the women, like what can the woman do? But she's like, well, no, it's the system. We have to change the whole system. But in her mind, the systems are based on what the men allow. So if the men allow things to be a certain way because they have all the force, it's up to the men to change the systems, because men have all the control of all the systems because they have all the force. And they're basically letting women do all this stuff. So it's up to the men, and they have the same, like, she thinks men should be doing things differently. Rachel thinks men basically own society. So if society has to change, it's up to the men too. But then she's saying that it's not up to the men, it's up to the women. This is so convoluted. We then just take test, problem solved. Testosterone. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that is something that probably should be happening quite a bit. The problem is a lot of people don't know that they have the low test problem. They don't go and get checked for it. And a lot of men also don't like going to the doctor. They tend to avoid it. So yeah, I mean, that would help. Obviously, simply, re-upping on the test isn't gonna solve all the problems, but it would be a start. It would help.
You can't fix the entire world.
Oh, you don't have to fix the whole world. I'm going to tell you.
For the U.S.
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you if you can just listen.
Sure.
In the 70s, Betty Friedan and Simone de Beauvoir had a famous interview where Simone said, I think the problem is that we give women the option to stay home. I'm paraphrasing, but she said, I don't think the world should be that way at all. I think that if we give that option, too many women will choose it, and that's not how society will run. I agree with her, and I believe that. I think if women have the option to stay home.
I don't disagree with Rachel there. I would prefer to stay home. Well, okay. To be fair, I do stay home. I work from home. But I mean, like, not have to work. Like, I would prefer to not have to work. I would prefer to, like, have a family, and I would prefer to have, like, a nice place that I don't have to worry about the bills, where I can do, like, a little blog or something, and I can do, like, some lifestyle gardening content or something like that. Like, I would prefer that. I think that would be cool. But where we are now, so.
That they would. I think if they had the opportunity to be mothers and be happy with being wives, mothers, having their sisters around them. Here's what happened. We pushed women into the workforce in the 1970s in huge numbers.
Who did that? It was the U.S. government and people that wanted more tax.
The government, the CIA, and the universities who wanted this big, massive college loan. So we agree on that. The big.
But if the men basically control everything and it's all up to the men, and the men had all the power, so it's the men's fault then, right? The men pushed the women into the workforce, and now here we are. The children earn for the Mayans. It's crazy that we did used to send kids down there. That's messed up. But, when you have so many of them, eventually it's like, the more you have, the less valuable, I suppose, that people felt the kids were, especially if you were already prepared that a bunch of them were going to die anyway. So I imagine they must have had less emotional attachment to them or something. if they were sending them to do all these horrible things. And I understand most of it was out of necessity at the time, but still, like, I can't imagine anybody today with how, like, precious children have become. And I don't know if children have become precious because we've changed in a way that we are more, like, ethically conscious, or we're more like emotionally mature or something, or because they're literally more scarce. Like, the children are a scarce supply, and it's a supply and demand problem. So we maybe value them because there's less of them. And when we literally were popping them out left and right, maybe that's why we were sending them to the mines, because there were so many of them, you could always just pop another one out. I don't know. Things that keep me up at night. Honestly, this one is new. I haven't thought about this one before. You're the first to know.
Massive college loan kind of scam where you tell the women, take out a loan, go to college so you can have financial security.
They wanted more taxpayers paying into the system.
Exactly. So what we do is that created a two-income economy. The reason and there were other factors in the economy declining, but we've had ups and downs economically throughout all of history.
You have to also include technology, right? AI, all that stuff, industrialization.
Yeah. Well, the point is that some women have always worked, and some women can and should work. I don't see any problem with it. Mothers, if we take mothers out of the workforce, we used to have things like breadwinner laws, where only the men were responsible for the debts in the family. We used to have things like clauses in women's employment contracts where once you were married, we consider you taken care of financially by your husband because he's the one responsible for that, not you. And so we're going to give that job to an unmarried woman, a widow, somebody who actually needs the job, because women's jobs were limited. We didn't have this huge equal workforce with 50% men and 50% women, basically. It's a little off, but that's basically what we have now. That created a permanent two-income trap where now women like me who want to stay home can't afford it.
I don't disagree. Well, I mean, she can certainly afford it. But yeah, I get what she means. There are a lot of women that would prefer to stay home, but they can't afford it. At least one of them will survive, right? Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if you pop out like a dozen, a few of them will probably die in childbirth. A few of them will probably die before the age of, I don't know, 3. And then you'll get a few that you can send to the mines, and then you might have one to keep or something. That's awful. But that's, I mean, if you send, how else are you supposed to interpret this? If you love your children, how can you possibly send them to such horrible places? I can't imagine, like, having a kid and then sending them into a mine or something. That I couldn't bear it. Like, that would be crazy. But they did all the time. And at some point, I don't know, maybe they dealt with it in some healthier and healthy ways, or they really might not have cared as much. Honestly, don't know.
And many women who I hear from all over the country saying, I would love to stay home with my kids, but it's really tough. This is not something you can change and fix today. The reality of this problem is that it's going to be a multi-generational fix, and it starts with what we value. And we need to stop valuing career woman, careerism, Sarah Jessica Parker, Sex in the City.
How do you sell that to women?
Well, you don't. See, this is the problem.
So you take away their option to choose.
Nope, it's not like that. The way the world works is based off incentive. Just like how are you going to convince the men not to watch porn? You're not. It's addictive, and people have base instincts.
The incentive to have a family that's functional in the future and be a functional adult. That
yeah, but we've convinced women like you that what they should value is success, get your bag, have finances.
I didn't say that. I said
you're 32. You've been married. You could be married, but you have other values. You don't have children for a reason.
I want to be married permanently. I think the single most important decision a person can make is who they decide to have children with.
I
think that's the most important. And so, yes, I think both men and women should be extremely selective and choosy with that decision, because that's going to ultimately determine whether the child grows up in a stable household. So I am not going to pressure women to just have kids as soon as they can for any kind of reason.
I'm talking about setting up incentives for the things we want to see.
Yes.
And what we do by giving...
I mean, you say potato, I say potato.
We give women, specifically, we give women free college loans. We give them free loans to start businesses. We have done all this affirmative action stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. That's terrible. We shouldn't be doing that. If you can't earn it for yourself, you don't get it. Like, that's shitty. And that also makes people look at other, like, this is something that I haven't experienced a ton of, but I kind of get the sense that sometimes, I kind of have this sense sometimes that some people, obviously not everybody, but there are some people that, like, kind of look at where I'm at in my job, and they're like, they somehow, like, don't believe that I'm really good at it. And I blame this kind of stuff for it. I blame these quotas and all of these special circumstances for pushing women into places where most of them don't want to go. Like, just because I like to do this programming stuff doesn't mean that most women do, and that's fine. But pushing them to doing this stuff makes it so that when people see any woman doing it, they're like, oh, well, they must have gotten some like special stuff to get there. Maybe they don't even like it, and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think that's shitty, because then people look at me and they're like, oh, well, you know, what kind of special stuff did she get that I didn't get? You know, and again, not everybody's like that, but I do kind of get the sense that some people like don't believe that I'm smart enough to do the stuff I do. Like it comes with people. Obviously, they don't say it, but you can tell, because people will start like over explaining things to you that are really obvious that you learned like 10 years ago. So yeah, it's usually that kind of thing. But I'll never be able to look at a large family again. I'll think about this logic. B base. Diff based. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's carry on here.
For the last 50 years to push and push and push and incentivize women to focus on career, focus on joining the workforce, reject motherhood. It's icky. Kids are gross and it's hard, and you don't want to do that. It's going to ruin your body. There's so much anti-motherhood propaganda,
which I'm
and the whole pop culture. You can't name a single pop star or movie star who's an influential woman who doesn't have the boss girl, strong woman through your sexuality message. All of them do. Be sexy and hot like me and make your money. And ew, men are gross and they're stupid. And Sabrina Carpenter telling the whole world men are useless.
You're broad, which I disagree with.
I didn't catch that. Last time, okay, I have never heard anything by Sabrina Carpenter. I know that she recently has blown up, and that happened when she started being she started putting on this like really girly persona that really appealed to the male gaze, where she's all like carefree and feminine, and that's what really started to make her more popular. But the last time that I have seen anything about her was she had this album cover where she was like on, I don't know, she was being held up by the hair or something, or somehow. Anyway, there was some album cover where she was in like a very extremely submissive position, and there was like a man that was holding her by the hair or by a chain or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. But that was the last time that I have seen anything from her. So to say that she, of all people, is somehow like anti-submission to men is a little weird, because maybe something's changed. I don't know. I don't follow pop music, so I don't know. Things could have changed and maybe she went in a different direction, but that's the last thing I saw about Sabrina Carpenter. So this is crazy to me.
But again, you're broadly generalizing women this, women that. You know,
I'm saying
most women.
The incentives, society-wide, through the pop culture, through the education system, through the government, every institution tells women motherhood is for stupid losers and strong woman, sexy girl, boss babe stuff is for winners. And we have to change those incentives. If we truly value family,
you can't force
wait,
people
just let me finish.
anything.
Just let me finish. I'm not saying force. I'm saying incentivize. You should know this if you work in politics.
Sure.
If we
I don't understand why they're arguing. I think Rachel just wants to argue and call the other women feminists because she wants to be like the only pick-me conservative, not conservative, whatever. Because if she gets to say that all these other conservatives are really, if all these other conservative women who are more attractive are really feminists, then she can be the only one left and she will get picked. So she can be like the ultimate pick-me. Because they're saying the same thing. Like, one is saying pressure, the other one is saying incentives. What do you do with incentives? You use them to pressure. Like, I potato. Whatever. I don't understand why they keep picking fights with other people who almost agree with them on almost everything. No, it's real, but it's a wild overreaction on Rachel's part.
incentivize people to come across the border because they're going to get free shit, we're going to get more of that.
Agreed.
You get more of whatever you incentivize, and you get less of whatever you stigmatize. We need to stigmatize sexy girl boss babe stuff. We need to.
That was exactly the other chick's point. So the taller, hotter one, she was saying that because there's people that are filling in all of the positions, women may not be as incentivized to have more children because they don't see a future for their kids. So if we weren't filling in the population with people from outside the country, then women would have more incentive to have children because they would have more of a future. That's literally what she was saying. And now Rachel was trying to use the same thing about the whole like immigration thing. You can't make this shit up. Well, like Rachel said, there are going to have to be women working and others household moms. The pop stars are going. So the pop stars. Oh, so the pop stars are meant to be the working ones, who are the ones that have to make the promo the propaganda. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, who's going to make the propaganda? Well, no, actually, I think I know the answer to this one. So she's probably going to parrot whatever her husband says on this. And I've heard Wilson before say something like that men are the best at creating propaganda and women are somehow like more susceptible to it, which I think I've covered that in one of the videos a little bit, but we can certainly revisit that at a future date in more detail. The state can do that. Yeah, but yeah. So the state can do propaganda, but again, how are they going to do propaganda if they don't have women singers and actors doing the performing propaganda part? I think is what Naz's point was. Like, the only propaganda you're going to have is like maybe some animations or something, which aren't going to be propagandizing enough. You got to have some women out there doing the performing. You got to have somebody doing the acting for the propaganda.
How?
By taking back the institutions and the culture.
How?
That's what you said, right?
Yeah, how are you going to do that?
By me going on these podcasts and writing books and talking to people like you. And now there's a bunch of...
shouldn't vote. That's how you're gonna get them to go back to...
Do you know how many women actually don't want to vote? It's a lot.
Okay,
you would be shocked.
Yeah, I'm sure, but it's
there's
not the
a lot.
majority.
They just don't care that much. The truth is...
A lot of men don't really want to vote either. That's not that many people really want to vote.
Whenever we have a dating panel, Brian,
the majority of women.
Most of the girls, when you say, no, I don't want to vote. If you say to all the, can you let me talk?
They're curated.
Please.
They're not curated.
Yes, they are.
Wait, what do you mean?
She's saying that you specifically pick girls. This is what everybody thinks about the podcast. And I wish this was true because I'm so black-pilled and I wish I wasn't. But all the young women I speak to, not just here, but on other podcasts and other debates that I do, you ask them who they voted for, they usually haven't. They usually don't vote until they're older and married.
It doesn't matter who
Some of the college radicals do.
The facts are that a majority of women vote and do care about voting because they vote Republican, because they vote Democrat, and because they voted more than men have.
What I'm telling you is I'm not trying to convince women the way that you're thinking. I'm talking about systemic incentive. I'm saying do things like what Hungary did, where if you have 3 or more children, you never pay taxes again. Okay. We make marriage an ecclesiastical governed thing again, where it's no longer this no-fault government bullshit that you want. Absolutely not.
You go to your church. What's the thing that I want?
You like government marriage with prenuptial agreements and no-fault divorce.
I believe that the government should have never gotten into marriages.
Okay, who should have governed marriage then?
I believe
who?
that. I believe
if the
that,
government doesn't,
because you just.
What is okay? So Brian is gonna step in when Rachel can't finish a thing, but she can freely overtalk the other chick. This is so annoying. True, the Wilsons are so deluded in thinking they're changing anything. Nope, you can have a real family that actually lives an ideal lifestyle. You could, but if you're going to be trying to use them for propaganda, they're going to have to be constantly like filmed or on social media, and that's no longer a real family if you're constantly filming them and they're performing for you. Yeah, that changes things. Like take any, we can take any sort of like social media family, because there's a lot of sort of these like mommy bloggers on these like social media family influencers where like their family is the content and they're no longer a normal family. Like that's not a normal family anymore. Those are actors. They have been changed by the cameras. And 18 Kids and Counting, is that a TV show? Yeah, I mean there's lots of sort of family influencers out there already, and I don't know. I don't think they're spreading the best messages sometimes.
Just told me you believe this and this and this, and it's
what you
inaccurate,
said,
and it's inaccurate. I believe in people being able to get out of bad marriages, absolutely.
Do you think they couldn't before?
And without certain legal protections. Let's say that you are in a marriage where you have domestic violence, domestic abuse, but you don't have the money to get a lawyer because there's usually financial abuse involved as well. So there's no way for you to even prove.
Abuse.
So there's usually no way.
Is there emotional abuse too?
So there's no way. No, I actually have the data on that too. So there's no way for you to prove that you're being abused, and so that goes against their rights. And I don't want women to be stuck in bad marriages. So
do you know how many
yes,
marriages?
I agree.
Do you know how many women were granted divorce in the year 1900? So this is before the 19th, before for no fault.
And I don't care because
well,
it's
I'm going to tell you,
it's irrelevant to the point that I'm making, which is
55,700 divorces in the year 1900. You can't tell me that women couldn't get divorces. Yes, they could.
Good. I'm not saying
they just didn't because it was highly stigmatized. It wasn't practical, and the incentives were not there. And what we've built now is a system that incentivizes divorce. It incentivizes waiting till your 30s to even start a family, and that's what needs to change. So we need to shift it and make it cool again.
To get married.
We need to make it cool to get married young, to stay together.
So if you make it cool, then you could still have it be legally permissible to have a no-fault divorce. You just make it uncool, right? What? There's so many things here that seem like they're contradictory, but whatever. Or just to stay doing multiple interviews with the idealistic families. I don't get the upward-down mindset when facing problems, especially from those who claim to be Christians. The individual and internal nature of spiritual life and faith is the discerning quality of Christianity over all other spiritualities.
We should not be allowing or glorifying OnlyFans chicks, Instagram bikini babes, all that shit needs to go.
I absolutely agree with all that. It's something that I practice in my personal life, obviously. But again, the answer, the solution to things is never to do anything by force or by taking away options, right? Do we want strong marriages? Yes. Do we want divorces? No. Do we think that it's a good idea to ban divorces so that people are stuck in abusive relationships?
Do you think I want a divorce ban? Or do you think because that's not what I want. What I want is where you like we always had for all of human history until 50 years ago, if you want a divorce, ideally, it should be through your church. You should have to go to your ecclesiastical authority. So I'm an Orthodox Christian. If Andrew and I, and this, I know a woman that this happened to, that there was actually legitimate horrific abuse. She went to her priest and to her bishop, and she said, this is what's going on. She had other people who were willing to say, yes, we think this is going on. She was granted a divorce because of the extremeness of the situation.
What if other people didn't know? Because that's interesting that she pointed out that other people were also aware of what was going on. A lot of times people get abused and it's happening quietly behind closed doors, and the partner is like the best person ever to everybody else except when they close those doors. And it's not so easy to prove a lot of times. So what if those people weren't backing up her story? What would happen then?
What we have now.
What does that have to do with the kids? What happens with the kids? What happens with dividing assets that they both had? Is the church, does it have any kind of dominion over those kinds of decisions?
Yes, so,
it does not.
No, historically, this is how,
not now.
But what we're talking about is prescriptions. And I'm telling you the way we fix this is, if my church governed my marriage, the church would say, okay, we're going to help take care of you financially. This is what used to happen under most churches. If there was a situation where the woman was abandoned, abused, say the husband was crazy, violent, any of these things that...
You could still do that today. Nobody's stopping you. She was granted the divorce. How nice. After all that horrific things, as long as somebody backed her up on her story, then she was granted it. She had to include that.
It's like,
because if nobody backed her up, then too bad. So sad.
It depends. That depends.
Would you be okay
from a religious perspective?
Do you believe it's okay, or do you believe that people should stay in marriages when the other person is cheats on them or commits adultery?
Well, so adultery can be a reason for divorce. It depends, and that's a personal thing that you have to go through with your spiritual father, because
that's the number one cause of divorce. By the way,
it's not.
Yes, it
no,
is.
The number one reason that women give for why they leave is growing apart, irreconcilable differences. We just don't get along. Infidelity is more.
That seems like something you put on a form, but usually when people put that kind of thing on a form, they have other reasons. They just don't want to be like spilling it to the world what happened. Because a lot of people, they either like don't want the drama, or they don't want to like have shame fall on them or on their ex-partner or whatever. So if something like naughty did happen, they're just going to put they're gonna put like irreconcilable differences and call it a day, but they really know it's usually something more than that. Because I mean, come on, that's like the standard, like something bad happened, I don't want to talk about it. Or like sometimes it really is people grow apart. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I'm saying that whatever people tend to put on the form may not be the full and honest truth of the matter. Like they're going to be sitting out there like admitting to some things if they don't have to, if they can sort of get it over with and closed and move on. The incentive and motivation for charity gets crushed when you already are forced to taxation to contribute to charity already. Yeah, I agree with that fully. That I've harped about this exact point. I have harped on so many times. I don't know if I've said it live as many times, but I've had so many arguments with people this exact concept. The Wilsons grant you everything. I'm so kind. Oh my goodness. people don't give away of their own will and empathy because everyone feels they're already contributing. Yeah, exactly. Because if your money is already being stolen and people say that it's for some sort of better, for some sort of greater good already, it's like, okay, well, if I can't help it, it's already done. And then, of course, that money doesn't really, most of it doesn't go to the greater good. It goes to war and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about that forever. In that sense, I feel like Christians have a point. Well, her thing isn't to have less government, though. Like Rachel, the chick on the right is for less government. Rachel is for more government. Smaller government means less taxation, means more freedom to donate to the causes. Yeah, so that would be agreeing with the chick on the right. So Rachel and her husband are both very anti-libertarian.
Or like number 3 or number 4. I've researched this quite a lot as well, and I've had this debate multiple times. It's usually like 3rd, 4th, or 5th on the list, depending on what survey you look at. No, it's not. Infidelity is not number 1. Absolutely not. It's like 3rd or 4th on the list. But from a religious perspective, of course, it's immoral. We don't say cheating is okay. We don't say.
Oh, just FYI, it is getting a little late. If we don't do, I don't know. If we don't do any like donos or anything, we'll probably call it on the hour. Because it is kind of a weekday, but yeah, we'll do another hour if there's any like decent-ish donos, but I don't usually get those, so I don't know. I've noticed that people who don't ask usually don't receive, but I also like don't want to ask too much, but also I would prefer to not like spend all night doing this when I could be like sleeping or something on a weekday. I don't mind on a weekend, but I do need more sleep on a weekday if it's for free. Sure, the Wilsons are for their guys in charge of a big government, and it wouldn't necessarily attribute the modern strain of miser. I'm not sure what that word is. Miserliness. I am uneducated. I don't know what the word is. To overbearing social safety nets alone, but to the non-homogeneity or consensus of where that money goes. Open source contributions, invest them in charity, down with the government. For sure, yep. I agree with that. Let's finish this
Cheating
one
is
up.
good, but it doesn't automatically mean that in every case of infidelity you must divorce. I know couples, and everybody knows couples where they've worked past that. Now, if it's a serial, if it's a serial problem, or if there's a good reason, there's a lot of factors. This is a personal thing. This is why it shouldn't be done through the government. It should be done through the church, through your priest and your bishop who know you and know your situation and can mediate disagreements. Because you don't just break up a family for any reason.
Just one of the many things.
Brian, you can go ahead and look it up if you want to. Top reasons for divorce.
2003 found that when divorced individuals are asked open-endedly to provide their reasons for divorce, the most cited reasons were infidelity, 21.6%, incompatibility, 19.2%, drinking or drug use, which I also agree with, 10.6%. In most studies, infidelity is the number one reason.
You would have to give me your source, and I would have to look at it. It's most likely going to be a survey. It's going to be most likely a survey of about 100 to 300 people.
This is from the NIH.
Really wants me to go through here.
And we do have to differentiate between, for example, surveys and what is actually cited in the legal divorce proceedings.
You were wrong. Where? Right here. So the results of the study, reasons for divorce. Table 1 presents the major contributors for divorce list. Overall, the results indicate that the most often cited reasons for divorce at the individual level were lack of commitment, 75%.
Another pretty word for infidelity.
That's not infidelity. Lack of commitment means you don't think the person is fully in it with you. That's what that means.
Sure.
Because, if you kept reading, the next one down the list is infidelity. So the first reason in this particular study, which I'll have to go over it, but the number one is lack of commitment. That 75% for lack of commitment. So the majority is, I feel like he's not really trying, like I'm really trying.
That's the definition you're giving it.
Infidelity is 59%, and too much.
Yeah, I think people can interpret those things differently. So if they don't provide like a full detailed description of the differences between each one and have people like really read and differentiate, some people might see the first one and be like, oh, that sounds right, and then move on. So I don't know. But again, like, it's unlikely that people would want to like share that somebody cheated on them or whatever. It's kind of embarrassing, you know. Well, it's second point remains just yeah. I mean, even if sometimes even if there's issues with other things besides cheating, which I'm not disagreeing with, like I'm sure that there are all kinds of things that cause divorce, but I could see how somebody could read lack of commitment and in their mind that would be like, oh well, they're not as committed to me as they are to their like side piece or whatever. I could see that being a problem versus like, oh, they're literally like cheating is a problem. Maybe it's like they're cheating and they like sort of forgot about the original spouse or something, and they're too focused on their side piece.
Conflict in arguing 57. So people can give multiple reasons. So what you're getting with these is we already had a problem. We already were fighting. And then one or both of us cheated. It does not say he cheated on her. It says infidelity. That could mean they both cheated. So
Okay. I don't think anybody was arguing that it was specifically men that are the ones cheating. Did I miss that part? Because I think it was like cheating in general is what she was saying. But what's the motive for their lack of commitment or lover? Yeah, like it's hard to say. I think people could interpret that in many ways. Disinterest. So cheating. Yeah. And Rachel was like, oh, well, what if they did other stuff first and then cheated? It's like, okay, so then cheating was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Because there's a lot of, she's like, oh, well, if you cheat after you do the other stuff, somehow that means that cheating isn't the problem. It's the other stuff. Okay, lady. Sure. Probably would not necessarily. All right, let's carry on.
So one thing I've noticed about you is you're actually not very good at reading data and interpreting it. You're not actually good at reading a study and understanding what it says.
No, first thing there says lack of commitment.
And you interpreted that as infidelity when the next one on the list.
Is it not?
That does not mean there was infidelity. See what I mean?
Might I just offer clarification from what I looked up?
Sure.
So there's two different categories. So now commitment to loyalty or faithfulness could be a thing, but and Rachel is correct.
They wouldn't separate it into two categories
there's
if they
two
meant
different
the same
categories.
thing.
Lack of commitment is one category. Infidelity, cheating is another. So extramarital affairs. But so under lack of commitment, it describes it as when the partner stops trying, they feel unappreciated, or decide the relationship is no longer a priority. So I guess in this context, lack of commitment doesn't necessarily imply a infidelity or cheating necessarily.
That's by the way, that's the exact same data that I cited in a portion. We just did a whole brand new debate course on debateuniversity.com, and all you guys who bought part 1, you can get a big discount on part 2, which is all about debating feminism. And in my section, I use that same data to argue my position. So that's how I knew that she was wrong on that and that she was kind of misreading or twisting
the original question and point was, do you believe that women or just people in a marriage that suffer infidelity from the other partner should not be able to divorce their
No,
partner?
I would never say that you should never be able to. It depends. I wouldn't say that every instance of infidelity must necessitate divorce, though, either.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying should they be able to?
Sometimes.
So
it depends.
Sometimes.
Yes.
You do
I mean, sometimes. The question is, should they be able to? Not that should they. Should they would be like, sure, sometimes, but should they be able to would be a yes if sometimes is the should. This is, honestly, I'm dumber for having watched this.
Sometimes it's up to what you randomly decide.
I think marriage should be governed by the church. And if it's governed by ecclesiastical authority,
this country runs,
it should, though, and it did. So I'm saying let's go back to that because that was better.
This country is not run by your personal Christian Orthodox
That's not what I mean.
religion.
Your church. So if you're Mormon, you get married in the Mormon church. And that ecclesiastical authority governs your marriage. And if there's a divorce, they help sort out who gets what and what happens. And they are responsible for supporting women and children in the case of the husband doing something that would necessitate a divorce. That's how it was through all of history.
Right, non-religious couples or some non-denominational Christian couple gets married, somebody cheats. Or do you believe that?
She's going to be like, oh, that's not real marriage. I don't believe in that. Okay, but people still do it. So what do you want them to do?
They are allowed to, legally, to get divorced, or they should be allowed to.
I don't recognize secular marriage. It's the same thing to me as gay marriage. All you're doing...
But it exists.
It exists.
What did I say?
If you don't recognize
but what it is,
reality.
right, but what it is not marriage. What you have as a secular person going through the state, which is why Brian's against it, and a lot of men are opting out, it's a gay roommate agreement. It's a very homosexual thing in nature, if you ask me. You are like, let's make a boy...
Is she for real? Okay, now, marriage between a man and a woman, if they're not religious, is supposedly gay, according to Rachel Wilson. I knew this was going to be stupid, but I didn't think it was going to be that stupid. Gay roommate agreement. Yeah, what the actual... Does she know what gay means? Or is she so, like, gay phobic or whatever that everything that she doesn't like is gay? So she doesn't like people to get married if they're not religious? That must be gay. Everything is gay gay to her if it's bad. Does she mean to use the word bad and, like, is using the word gay on accident because she's doesn't understand the difference between gay and bad? I don't know. This is I don't even know how to try to explain what happened here. Marriage outside of the church is fake and gay. That's orthodoxy. To be fair, it is. Marriage has always been a spiritual ritual. Like, sure, I don't entirely disagree that it's a spiritual thing, but you don't have to be religious to be spiritual. And people were getting married before they were Christians, or they had at least something similar. I don't know what word they used for it, but whatever word that is, or whatever word that was at the time in whatever language would be translated to marriage now. That's what we call it. And that's what people do. I don't know. Like, you can call it marriage if you want, but we all know what that is. And people are doing it if it's religious. That's like that's what's happening. So if it looks like a duck and it smells like a duck and it walks like a duck and it's not a duck unless it's been blessed by holy water. If it's not swimming in the holy water, it's not a duck, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. What we do nowadays is more of a civil union for our government to recognize our status and treat our taxes benefits accordingly. Yeah, that's kind of the point though, right? Is so that people who aren't religious can have the same benefits. The difference is in how binding it is in the eyes of the community and spiritual authorities. Naz agrees. But I don't want to marry a duck. Well, that's too bad. That's what you get. You get a duck or you get a duck. Or you get the duck lips. You know what? Oh, I don't know if everybody remembers the duck lips, but like, I don't know, 5, was it 5? I don't know, like 5, 10 years ago. Oh my goodness, it has been 10 years already. In like 2016 Instagram, all the chicks were doing the duck lips. You know what I'm talking about? With the whole like, I can't demonstrate right now, obviously, but they were doing like the face with the like. Everybody was doing it. It was the coolest thing ever to have to be doing the duck lips. No, that's not the point of marriage. I mean, I think people see marriage differently, and if people, it's like a no true Scotsman thing. Like, oh well, your marriage isn't real marriage because it's not a religious thing, and then the non-religious people are like, well, I'm fine with your marriage being a real marriage, but to me, it doesn't count unless like the state has something to do with it. Otherwise, it's not a real marriage. So, I don't know. People have different opinions on these things. I'm sort of. Again, I've harped on this before, but I tend to lean on the side of the government should probably stay out of it. And if people want to have like a spiritual ceremony that aren't Christians, I think that should be it should be fine for them to do that. People seem to like this marriage thing, whether they're Christian or not. So I don't think Christians like own marriage. You could be not Christian and still get married, or whatever other religion or not religion. Like I don't think Christians own it, but they can have their own version and everybody else can have their own version, and people can basically do whatever kind that they think is best if they want to do it at all. That way the government doesn't have anything to do with it and everybody can do their own thing and it won't be conflicting. Girl used to duck and now boys muse. What? Definite duck clips reveal at 10,000 subs. No, I'm never doing that. Maybe that's a joke. I might, but I couldn't bring myself to do that for in like a serious way. Oh my goodness, the horrible memories of like 2016 Instagram are flooding back, and it wasn't only on Instagram. It was everywhere. All the social media was covered in the duck clips and like the overly tan everything, and yeah, the really like caked on makeup. It was an interesting time. I've seen young teenage boys reflexively meow mew, even LOL the silliness. Meow, like mew? What is mew? I don't understand what meow. Like meow? Like meowing? I don't understand what meow means except for like kitty cat meow. I really hope that's not what you mean by that, because that would be so confusing. Although, I mean, every generation of younger people has their own weird thing that the older generations think is weird to do. So honestly, if they're meowing like kittens, that's I've never seen it, but I suppose that's the thing. Mewing is when boys basically do the duck thing while sucking in their cheeks to show they're gelling. What? I thought you were talking about literally meowing. Okay, that explains why it's spelled like that. That it makes slightly more sense than meowing, but I think if they were meowing, at least it would. I don't know. You know what? Neither really makes sense. I think mewing makes as much sense to me as meowing when it comes to teenagers, I suppose. Mewing is the thing clavicular does. Really? I mean, I heard he did all kinds of things that I don't think he really did. Like, I heard rumors going around that he would like use a hammer to like shatter the bones in his face or something, which is so dumb. Like, obviously he wasn't doing that, but this seems like it's a harmless, sort of weird but harmless behavior where you're not physically damaging yourself. So that's possible. Mewing. I learned something new every day. I learned several new things today.
Arrangement, like Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory, how you'd make a roommate agreement. It's a glorified roommate agreement that's enforced by the state. There's no religious duty. There's no moral duty. It's not a lifelong commitment. You have an easier time getting out of your cell phone contract or out of a divorce in a secular situation than you do breaking your cell phone contract. You have better luck. You got a divorce that you just signed the paper and now you're divorced.
Yes,
you have a harder time with Verizon. It's harder to break up with Verizon than that.
Thankfully, the first time around, even though we were young and picked people that we grew apart from, at least I picked a decent person, and so it was we're still amicable with each other and would be there for each other in any kind of situation. But
that's good.
But
I'm just saying, like, all again, now it's just a basic roommate agreement.
Is she gonna let the other chick talk or what?
No, and then you go, I don't like this anymore, so it's done.
It's a really entangled legal situation, especially when shared assets exist, and especially if kids exist. Yeah. You try to get into a divorce proceeding when kids are involved, and
I went through that.
It takes years to resolve.
In my case, it only took maybe less than 6 months, but yeah, it's horrible.
They hate it when people say something like, well, for me, it's not like that, or I'm not like that, when they try to say something about general society or like a general experience that other people have. And then they're like, oh, well, it just because it was like this for you, it doesn't mean it's like that for most people. So it doesn't matter what you went through. Do you know what a hypothetical, blah, blah, blah. But she can be like, well, for me, it wasn't. So, okay. Sure, but for most people, it's still a much bigger deal than that. So it's superficial as all. Yeah, that sounds silly. I can picture it. I don't know if I've really seen it because I don't really like hang out with teenage boys, but I can picture it. Like I think I understand what it is that you're saying now. I didn't know it was that popular though. That's pretty weird. To be fair, it's a very feminine thing to do, bring it back to the personal anecdotal, and we were watching two chicks debate. That's that's fair. Yeah. Two blondes arguing.
But it should only, my view is that it should only be for serious situations. You're in danger. But there's something drastically wrong. I don't. But we're talking about who should. And I'm saying it should be the church because marriage is a lifelong religious sacrament. If all you want is a roommate agreement, I don't care what you do.
I don't make policy recommendations based on religious arguments.
Well, that's a problem.
Even if I hold the same values as you do.
So you're doing the thing that so many people like Not So Erudite tries to do this. I have a set of morals for myself and what I think is right or wrong. I have a set of morals, but I'm not going to force it on anyone. I think we should just default to secularism. And that's another big reason why we're in this mess.
So we do have separation of church and state for a reason.
Is morality objective or not?
I think that morality is dependent on what our beliefs come from God, right? Like basically whatever. I think there's objective right and wrong regardless of what you believe according to your religion.
Okay, if that's the case, if we know objectively what's right and wrong, why wouldn't we organize society?
She said there's objective right and wrong, not that we know what that is. I'm not gonna nitpick because she might have meant that, but she didn't say it.
Along that, and not just what this person might think is wrong on that day, and then Bob thinks it's wrong next Tuesday.
Let me name some of those things. Sure. It is objectively wrong to kill a person unless it is in self-defense.
Why?
Right? Because people have inherent human value. So that is, I don't care what your religion is.
And you think that's based on God?
I think that's an objective moral basically decision.
But what if someone
argument.
doesn't believe that? What if somebody says,
Then
I don't think that people have inherent
Correct.
human
I'm
value?
giving you an example of things that I believe are across the board that I don't think matter or change depending on a person's religion, like the right of a person to live, unless, of course, they've threatened somebody else and whatnot. So I think that's an example of that, and you asked to name one.
Sure.
So yes, objective morality does exist. There's, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't, because that, again, is taking away from somebody else's property, which is wrong, and you don't need a religion to basically support that. And if there is a religion
But see, that's where you're wrong. That's where you're wrong, though. There are people who are secularists who don't believe stealing is wrong. They think stealing through taxation.
That's not what she said. That doesn't disprove her thing. Okay, this is so dumb. That just because do I have to explain, or do we kind of have agreement that that's basically dumb? Because she said that you don't have to have religion to think that stealing is wrong, but she's like, well, that's wrong because there's some people who don't have religion that do stealing. Like that logically does not negate what this is so stupid. I did not realize that it was going to be this stupid, but it's very stupid. This is honestly so dumb. Typically feminine, not exclusively from a Christian paradigm. God gave men free will so the individual could prove its heart to God by making their own choices. An imposition from an institutional or societal authority is the opposite. Does she think that most criminals are secular? Maybe. I mean, I don't. She must, because I mean, I don't understand how else this could possibly. Even with that still wouldn't make sense. Like, that still wouldn't negate what the other chick said.
Is correct. Black Lives Matter think that, we're living on stolen land, you got to give it back, and all these kinds of things. There's a lot of people. You're taking the Christian moral paradigm for granted and saying it's objective when if we separate church and state, that's Christian. Those are Christian values.
People have a right to live unless they're basically threatened. You think that's Christian?
Do you think there's any other religion that holds that?
You think that was in the case before Christianity?
No, it absolutely wasn't. In the ancient pagan world, there was no right to life. There was no human dignity. That did not exist.
Okay.
They did human sacrifice.
Okay, just because people do human sacrifice, first of all, that wasn't everybody. That wasn't all societies that had that, and even in the societies, that wasn't everybody in society. And even if there was a society that did have that, it doesn't mean that they overall didn't have human dignity. They might have had a different understanding of it that had exceptions to it in some ways, or like, that doesn't mean in general they didn't have it. Honestly, this is getting dumber and dumber with every single thing they talk about.
Yes, absolutely. Some religions and different sects did those things.
Okay, go to an Islamic country and ask them if they think everyone has a right to live.
But it absolutely
What does that have to do with anything?
did exist.
No,
in
it
the
didn't.
past, especially in Nordic, Nordic.
No, they did human
Is her thing that everybody was Muslim and Muslims don't have that concept? That's stupid on both counts. Both of those are stupid, and neither of those are true. Honestly, all right, what time is it? All right, it's past the hour, so we're gonna have to wrap it up. I guess I'm gonna go try to film the thing for the video. The video I've been working on for what's it called? The Erica Kirk stuff. And I kind of mentioned it in the chat earlier, but it kind of sucks because I was like, oh, I found this thing and it's pretty cool, but then freaking Candace already touched upon it a little bit, but she didn't go into enough detail, so there's still something that hasn't been discussed yet that's pretty fresh. I've seen that there's a connection to it. Yes, Rachel doesn't understand because orthodoxy is an institutional doctrine more than a religious one. I've seen that there's a connection to it, but I don't know if it's true. I don't think most criminals are secular. Oh, it depends on what you mean by secular. If you mean like they believe in the separation of church and state, I think probably most people do in America. But if you mean like not religious, which is how some people say, which is what some people mean by that, then I think most criminals are religious because most people are religious still. And I don't think that. Yeah, because I mean, like, look at the prisons. They're filled with Bibles and people who like have not necessarily converted. Sometimes they do convert freshly, but usually it's like, oh, they've been a Christian, but they haven't really been like reading the Bible as often or whatever. But I guess if you want to like call somebody not a Christian if they don't read the Bible, or call somebody not a Christian if they do like non-Christian things. You could do that, but they at least claim to be. Hello, Isnek. Nice to see you. Which feminist? The one on the left or the one on the right? Usually they reaffirm their religion. The criminals. Yeah, it seems like they like re-find it or find it. Honestly, I'm dumber for having listened to this, so it's having its effect on the effects are coming on. The dumbness effects. Anyway. I'm gonna go and see if I can record the other stuff. And maybe we'll go longer on the weekend, and I won't try to complain about donos or anything, but I think on weekdays I'll start doing them shorter if it's for free. Okay. We can finish whatever is left of this. Probably not in one sitting because it's still pretty long. And even when we go at a pretty, what's the setting that we're on? We're like 1.65 is pretty much a decent speed. It's still probably gonna take a while because this is like a 6-hour thing, but at least we can, at least we have something to finish on days when there might not be like a new thing out to cover. Like we get the gist of it. Honestly, like I do want to finish it, but maybe not like all at once. I think I tried doing a debate all at once previously, and it didn't get us fun near the end. And even that was like part 3. I think that was the not so erudite one. All right. I don't know why you took it upon yourself to review the longest videos media channel in existence. Well, sometimes you can do it in parts. I don't know. Sometimes when we do some of the longer ones, we don't finish them and we get to like sometimes the Q&A, or sometimes if it gets boring, kind of stop in the middle. But lately I've been pretty like completionist about things ever since I finished that not so erudite one. So I think we'll probably do a bit here and there, but I don't know if I want to do this one like in a row. Maybe we'll do something else next time, and then we'll come back to it, and then we'll do something else, and then we'll come back to it, and eventually we'll finish it. But I don't want to be like, I don't want this debate to be all we cover for the next like week or whatever. How do they manage to talk to each other for 6 hours without falling ill? I don't know. That's a great question. That is a good question. All right. I admire Brian's patience hearing the Wilsons take over and over every weekend. Yeah, I mean, he's making pretty big money on it, so I think he's very happy to sit there. That's probably when he gets the most donations, is when they have the Wilsons on. That's the one thing that the Wilsons have right, is they found a great niche for people with money who are willing to donate quite a bit to have their views kind of like repeated back to them. And they have succeeded on that, at least. I'll give them that. That is one thing that they are doing that is bringing them success, and they're doing, I suppose, correctly in a way. But you can still be doing something that's shitty, that's good for you, but bad for society. That's still true. All right. I'm sure Brian is at this point where he doesn't really care about the issues and he remains pragmatically business-oriented. Yeah, I noticed in the description, I happened to scroll through the description, and it says that you can buy the whatever podcast for something crazy. I think he was asking for like 250 Bitcoin or something like that. And a Bitcoin is, what, like at least 70K now or something like that. I haven't been keeping up with the prices, but yeah, so it looks like he's willing to sell the whole podcast and be done with it as long as he gets a good enough offer. But I don't know who would want to buy something like this, because he's kind of part of it. So I don't know if they're going to see the same kind of returns on investment. Brian was he at some point red pill. Right now he's in his arthrop phase because of the Wilsons. I don't know if Brian really. I think he believes in some of the things he says, but I think a lot of it is mostly rage bait, so that he gets like the donos and he gets the people coming on to argue with him and whatever. Because you'll notice like all of the titles are like, oh, angry feminist hater or whatever, and that's how he gets all the views. So he's gotta say the unhinged stuff to get the angry feminist whatever to come and argue with him, and that's how he makes the dough. So I don't know if he really believes in anything he says. He probably believes in some of it. Like, I'm sure that over time, if you repeat the same thing over and over enough, you start to believe your own bullshit. And I think maybe he has started to believe some of his own bullshit, but there are a lot of positions that they discuss where they don't really, where he seems to like distance himself from it, like some of the more extreme ones that like there was that debate where they did recently with the long haired, like the 140 IQ girl or whatever, where the one that we covered bits and pieces of, the one where Wilson was saying the Epstein stuff, and then I think they brought up the Erica Kirk thing, and then the chick was like, well, she was texting this 15-year-old, and then at first he was with Wilson. He was like, oh yeah, sure, that's probably nothing or whatever, that's not a big deal. And then when the chick was like, well, she was saying this and this and that, and I want to touch your butt, and sending all these like sexual memes, he was like, oh yeah, I don't know about that. If that's true, that's kind of, and then he like distanced himself. And then also when Andrew was sort of like arguing against the Epstein stuff, like he was sort of defending it in a way that he was saying like, oh well, there's no PDF stuff, it's not children, or when it is, and how like they weren't convicted or whatever. Yeah, it was all kinds of convoluted, but during those times it seems like Brian sort of like kept quiet and like he kept himself off screen for the most part, and then when he does like co-sign on stuff, he tends to be on screen himself too. I've noticed that. But again, it's an opinion. I don't know if that's for a fact. Obviously, I'm not in his head. I don't know what he thinks, but it does appear that way, at least to me. Like some of the more like out there things. So I don't know. If I had to take a wild guess and guess what Brian really thinks about stuff, I'd say he's probably like most people. Somewhat like most people, except like Hurt probably got cheated on at some point by a woman and hurt by another one or something. Maybe has had bad experiences with women, which does happen sometimes to men. And so he tends to lean in the whole like, men are always getting taken advantage of, poor men, because that might have happened to him. Again, if I had to take a guess, it's probably something like that. But he still doesn't go as far as the Wilsons do, and he doesn't go as far on the religious stuff. I don't think he's religious at all. I think he has said that he's not religious. But he does seem to at least publish those opinions because that's what makes the money. In my opinion. He comes across as a normie who toys around and plays at this. Yeah, I mean, that I mostly agree with that. It does seem to come across like that. I mean, he has correctly identified where the money goes, or where the money comes from, I suppose. And that's something I have done incorrectly. All right, speaking of, I'm going to log off now. Everybody have a good night. I shall see you when I see you next time. Probably like Saturday or something, Saturday night, and we'll go longer then. Good night. It was nice to see everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks again. Thanks for hanging out.